Okay, and we are live.
Tevis, it's been a while. It feels like a while anyway. There's been so much stuff in the market. How are you?
Good. Um, yeah, good. I'm still traveling. Hold on. Let me lower my video quality a little bit so that I don't lag out on you guys. But because this is like full HD and I don't think my internet can handle that. So 480p is what you guys get.
Yeah.
And then we'll do this.
And he's I hope that your meeting with the Pope went well, that your financial advice to him was well received. So
Yeah, I told him to buy BMNR. So
there you go. Yep, that's just for the Pope financial advice. But no, today, guys, we've got a lot of topics. We'll talk about some bubblicious things that are in the market. Spoiler alert, we don't think it's a bubble. Neither of us do. But there is a bit of froth and some churn. Something did cause the stock market to kind of tank. A lot of news on a lot of mega cap, but also some individual tickers too. And Tevis. Oh, actually, first, if you guys are newer, if you're just tuning in, if it's been a while, when we do these live, your comments are very welcome. I see one on Oscar Health there. If it's not related to something that we're discussing at the moment, usually we'll save those at the end. Tevis will tag those. We plan to stream tonight at least 6 hours, I think was a goal, or maybe no. I'm just kidding. But there's so much news, guys. So Tevis, where do you want to start?
oh boy. Maybe let's start at why the market fell today and then go down the list.
Yeah, the biggest reason why it fell, to oversimplify it, is the market doesn't really like the idea of World War III. I don't know why, but no, all jokes aside, President Trump came out on Truth Social and said that there were certain circumstances that he might see, himself basically shooting down Russian jets, and also he called them a paper tiger, which I hope is just a negotiation tactic to try to actually get a ceasefire done in Ukraine. I know that's been one of his driving things that he wants to get done. Be good for the world, hopefully, but not if it ends up in World War III. So I think the market is digesting that. It looks like in after hours things are fine, but when the president is basically talking about starting World War III, that's not a great thing for stocks. So what do you take away from that, Tevis? Is it just posturing and negotiations, hopefully?
Yeah, I think he is one of the most unpredictable figures out there because he's very much like on a hair trigger will completely do a 180 around geopolitics. And the interesting piece is all the things that you don't see behind the scenes of their negotiation because they met in Alaska and then he obviously has met with Zelensky several times since. And I think October or November is when they're all going to meet at the table if that's still on the cards. But I do see it as a negotiating play almost, or at least a posturing play. Um, whether it will or won't be taken as that, I don't know. I think that when you think of the expression, calmer heads will prevail, I don't like Trump is not the first person to come to my mind.
Yeah. Well, no. So, and Nathan James says nobody's threatening World War III. Stop with the hype. No, that's a little bit tongue in cheek. But I mean, if the United States actually shot down Russian jets, that increases the odds of World War III. That's not a good thing. It's not something that between large powers in the world you want them talking about. So it was kind of interesting if you throw this up, Tevis. Palantir is kind of perceived at the very beginning of the Ukraine invasion. I've invested in Palantir mostly for the commercial aspects. Though, I do like the company. I'm wearing, nice Palantir shirt here. But the narrative has definitely shifted. I know that things tanked just a little bit during that, but Palantir, whenever there's geopolitical turmoil in the news, like the stock is just resilient. I think the market understands, like, pretty much no matter what the conditions are, Palantir is going to do just fine. Now, is it ridiculously expensive as a stock? Yes, it is. I'm even at the point, I started a very slow DCA, like at 160, just because I sold off too much of my position and got away from covered calls. And I'm about at the point, if it goes above 200, I'll probably just stop even that very slow DCA, which would take like a couple years to even double my position. That's how slow of a DCA it is. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think the VIX spiked like crazy today. Well, I mean, look, even a slight provocation or a backhanded comment like that, given where the market is, how inflated it is, I think that market makers and large institutions and all of these uh, moving forces in the market are looking for any excuse they can to validate their thesis. And their thesis has largely been that we've been running really hot for a long time and the pullback is healthy. And I think, to a large degree, I agree with that. I just can't predict whether it's going to be in October or whether it's going to be in January, February of next year. It's really difficult to do that. So I'm just holding positions that I want to be holding. And if it goes down, then I'll navigate accordingly. But I think that's the best way. The risk for me, and maybe we can throw up a couple of these posts that we have here on the macro, but like the risk for me is really the fact that I have options. I have leaps on several things. I have some options that are shorter dated, like January 2026's. So that's the balancing act of me trying to like reduce a couple of those on green days and reallocate that into the underlying stock or just keep it as cash on hand. My cash position has ballooned again to about 13%. But granted, like that's a fake 13% because like the cash that is not under obligation through CSPs is low single digit percentages, like maybe like 3% or so. And so I have cash secured puts on Next. I have cash secured puts on Duolingo. I have cash secured puts on BMNR, quite a ton of them. And if the market goes down, then I'm going to own those shares at prices that I want to own those shares. But the point stands, like it's not a pure cash position.
yeah, no, likewise, most of my swing position actually right now is cash. Though I do have, others, it's all in BMNR basically, except for some IPO stuff. And I think we're at 50s, maybe 49s on BMNR. So if those fill, like that's fine. I'm good with that. Even if it goes much lower, but yeah, it's 55 bucks a share. If you don't mind throwing this up, this kind of shows us where we've been a year to date on the S&P 500. Let me do year to date again. It's been just on a tear since April 5th. There have been just brief pullbacks. If you look at the RSI, this is on the daily incremental. Of course, it was oversold here, overbought a couple of times, and that didn't really stop the market. Brief pullback, and then we just resumed. Brief pullback, resumed, and here we have a very brief pullback. It may last a few days. I mean, we'll see. We could actually get a correction as well, which is a 10% drop from the peak. But I mean, like I think the bottom line is, there's a few people out there that are just always bearish. There's a few people out there that are always bullish, probably more than bears. And then I think most of the rest of the people are just saying, okay, there's a whole lot of things going right. Earnings were great. AI is real. The consumer is not too unhealthy. And then I think the last piece too, Tevis, is don't fight the Fed. Now the Fed is cutting. And when the Fed is cutting and things are stable and good, we know what normally happens in markets. Now, sometimes it is bearish when the Fed is cutting. If it's like, hey, the jobs market is falling to pieces, the economy is dying, that's bearish. When you have emergency rate cuts, that's really bearish. But this type, we're looking at probably 3 by the end of the year. That's really good for most equities. I don't know that that'll unfreeze or thaw the housing market. I'm very skeptical on that. But it's a really good thing. Most people are bullish. But that said, like what you said makes a lot of sense. Like if folks are, even from a little bit of volatility, or if we get a bigger pullback over the next couple of days, a lot of times it's at that point you realize, okay, I'm a little offsides here. I have too many. I mean, honestly, I've got cash. I'd like to buy some things at a cheaper amount, although I'm more allocated now than I was a month ago by quite a bit. But if you realize like, oh man, if we pull back and I lose like 20% and I'm not good at that, it's okay to take precautions. And actually, now is the time to do that before a massive pullback. Not giving financial advice, but I'm just saying I thought about it last night and then this morning, and I have decided I'm pretty comfortable with where I'm at. I might make like one minor move just to kind of hedge some things, but mostly, unlike you, I've actually sold out of all my shorter dated options. The shortest dated option I have expires December 2026, and it's for PayPal at $90 strike, which seems impossible. The stock never moves, but even there, like I'm fine with it. Most all my other options are for 2027. Very conservative. A lot of those, like the SoFi $10 strikes, are so deeply underwater in like a good way. These are not covered calls; these are leaps. I'm like, hey, they may go up or down. The stock may go up or down. It went down a bit today. That company is in such a good position. So,
Yeah, I'm curious to get your take on this. I posted this a few days ago, and it's an interesting comparison here. So this individual posted the disconnect between job openings to be more precise, and the S&P 500. And as you can see here, Roy, over the last decade or so, it's been going in lockstep. And here in 2023, 2024, we started to see a break, and that's been continuing all throughout 2025, where the disconnect is the largest that it's been. And I thought it was really interesting that that disconnect started that early, and I attributed this a lot to AI. So I said, look, initially, like when you look at it for the first time, it's cause for concern. The bearish take is that the underlying economy is worse than what the market thinks, um, and that we're due for a big pullback as a result, like just a logical deduction. But the more interesting take is that these jobs are never going to return as a result of AI permanently displacing some roles and or replacing roles altogether. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts around like what do you attribute this to? A mixture of macro plus AI, more macro, or something else altogether?
yeah, I mean, like we're seeing it from large cap tech, and we're seeing it from like recent IPOs like Klarna. There's a lot of jobs that are focused on efficiency and driving the bottom line, and they realize that perhaps they overhired, especially during COVID. Some took drastic measures during 2022 and 2023, like Google. Google actually went into extreme cost cutting mode. But others, were not nearly as aggressive, but they see that they can do more with fewer or more with less. And so I think that, some of those are those job openings that it just, they realize, okay, one person can actually do three persons jobs now with AI. I think what's really interesting on this, so some of those job openings, I think were just fake. Honestly, I have family members and I have friends as well that have applied to a lot of different jobs. One guy that's a friend, he's more of a laborer, and he's worked a lot of different odd jobs, and he couldn't tell me how many jobs he had to apply to, or that he applied to, or that he even walked in and they had no idea that the job was even posted. They're like, no, we don't have any jobs. We've not had any hirings in this long. This is in Houston, major place. And one of my family members had been applying for a lot of different jobs and found the same thing, that the jobs were not real. They didn't exist. So hopefully part of this is, now I don't know why it's a weird thing, but I hope part of this is just fake jobs are going away. Part of this too, of course, is AI. Now, what's really interesting is we've had a lot of crackdown on immigration, illegal immigration. And so you would actually expect, because of that, maybe there'd be more job openings, if not fewer, although maybe not the type of jobs that you'd like. And then, of course, now there's a shift towards H1B visas, which are white collar rather than blue collar jobs, which you would think would lead eventually over time to some further job openings. But I think that this trend might continue for a long time, as there's a lot of efficiency gains realized by AI. Of course, Elon Musk's vision is, it starts with a U, something prosperity, unlimited. It's not unlimited. It's unconstrained, unrestrained prosperity, something like that, which he's not the only one that's basically saying that, but they see the bots taking over, driving the labor force, probably UBI, it looks like, and I hope not. But and then everybody is just really well off. And materially, maybe so, but there's a lot of problems and issues with that. So, anyway, just to put it in a nutshell, AI, eventually robotics, more of that type of stuff is going to, I think, lead to fewer job openings over time. Not everybody wants to have a job anyway. Some are able to not have a job and get away with it for whatever reason, work for themselves. That's great if you find purpose. But no, I think that'll continue over the next 5 years. I just really hope it doesn't get to the point where we need UBI.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that it continues. Lakeview family, thank you for the donation. As long as the macro is still relatively strong, markets are likely to keep marching forward, especially with rate cuts. The odd 1 to 3% pullbacks are not unusual as people take profits. Yeah, I think those types of very mild pullbacks are very normal and they happen several times a year. In the macro, I think the kind of pullbacks that people are expecting is the 10%, like massive drawdowns, 10% plus, I would say. I don't necessarily know that we're going to get one of those until the end of the year, maybe, especially if some geopolitical stuff pops off. But I think nobody's going to really blink an eye at a 2% or 3% dip.
Yeah, and I have like some indicators that I look for when we're at near or at a local top, and we're not, in my estimation, it's just a guess. I'm not like perfect on timing anything. I think we're not that far away. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a pullback in October at some point.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. Um, you see, of course, some froth in the market. You see like people laughing at the idea of 50% gains in a year as like terrible. That's signs of froth. We see BETR and Open Door in a lot of meme stocks and that type of action. Small caps, although there's some reason for the small caps actually doing well. Rate cuts are really good for a lot of those companies because they're not strongly profitable. A lot of them do have debt, the revolving debt that they need to take care of. So that's a good thing for them. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point right there. Is like, bottom line is you can look at the labor force and it's not unhealthy despite the job revisions.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you, Brock Capital, Sugar Daddy Brock Capital, who got us into BMNR and has made us a lot of money and could potentially lose us a lot of money depending on how this thing goes.
So did Brock get Steven into BMNR or?
Steven's in BM. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
So when we canceled because of Tanner wanting to be super late, FinTech Friday this week, I had Steve on and I asked him if he is at BMNR, and he reminded me that yes, he is. That he talked to Chris, and Chris got in it, which Chris talked to us, and we got in it. So he's like the godfather of BMNR. But there's honestly there's a lot of people in BMNR. There's a lot of people giving up on SBET, which it's kind of sad. But I mean, honestly, that's kind of what I predicted when I got into BMNR. Is usually in these type of plays, and maybe we want to talk BMNR here for a bit because there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. Actually, let's do that if we're good on macro. You good to talk about the Colt?
Do we want to bring out the big guns this soon into the show and talk about BMNR?
Oh, maybe it's a little bit early.
Yeah. Let's maybe let people accumulate, and then we'll talk about BMNR later.
Yeah, and I will put chapters on here. All right. So anyway, yeah, there is some froth. There is some speculation in the market. If you look at the fear and greed indicator, a lot of that RSI is hot and everything. But there's also some indicators that I think it's not there yet. But these things can happen anytime. Macro is a big part of it too. So 40%, Duck. What are you doing?
Yeah, dude, Duck doesn't play around.
These guys want to talk some Colt.
I saw his hymns leaps position, and the man doesn't play around. But I knew Duck before he changed his name. So
yeah.
He thinks I forgot about that. But
I don't remember what that is. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a stock that we'll definitely get to. I do see Deuce saying BMNR acquiring ETHZ. We'll talk about that, the parachute clause there. I actually probably need to do a separate video on this too to kind of break that down just quickly. Man, a lot of people that just bought. Whew.
Yeah, well, I made a
does that scare you?
You know, like it would be critical of me to say yes, because like I also bought a ton of BMNR too, but like not 50% of my portfolio, but it's like 5% of my portfolio, you know? So, like I understand why maybe there's a premium that you can add as a result of the excitement out there. Is it something that I would buy for like my mom's retirement portfolio? Probably not. Um, but like I think my risk profile is a little bit higher. I think the thesis makes sense if you believe in the underlying asset catching a bid as a result of the network activity increasing. Now, is that going to happen immediately? Are people having unrealistic expectations? Like, yeah, sure, you could argue that this euphoria for something like BMNR is inflated. Everybody buys for their own reasons. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, there's a lot in it, but if it's a ticker that we like, it's not speculative, it's not scary. But if it's a ticker that we don't like, then it is. So not really. A lot of people betting big in BMNR. So of course, yeah. Okay, so since we want to save BMNR for a minute, Tesla. You want to talk some Tesla?
Yeah, sure. We can talk some Tesla. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get an equal number of fanatics on that one as well, given the move that's done. So,
okay.
Let's talk. Do that too.
Yeah, we can talk. I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but let's do Tesla right now. So in my mind, this is where I'm at. We've not had one of these, deep dives or deep digs at Tesla. The biggest thing that has shifted for Tesla, I think, was just Elon Musk and Donald Trump seeming to get along well at the funeral on Sunday.
There's two things. Because remember, like, it's been a week since we talked last, so I'm gonna bring them both up, and I'll start with the thing that you just mentioned, which is these guys are besties again.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on. Turn off that volume. And as you can see here, they're chit-chatting away, and what's his face is there. Dana White is there. And this was at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk. And yeah, it seems like they're mending fences, let's say, which is obviously bullish because you want that good relationship, especially because like the government is now taking stakes in all of these businesses. And so I don't know if you saw the news right before we went on about like the lithium company that just like jumped 60-70% after there was like rumors that the US government is taking a 10% stake, and that after Intel. And like, I think that this is obviously just good overall. I'm not saying that the government is going to take a stake here, but it's just good practice. Like you want to have a good relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean that does shift a lot of things. You don't really want to be in the crosshairs of the president of the United States if you can avoid it. That's usually not a great thing for your company, no matter who you are or what company you're in, especially a consumer facing one. The other, beyond news from last week, like what I'm saying with Tesla is basically nothing in my mind has shifted too much. It's still a very small position for me, although it's gone up quite a bit. And I had a friend that actually I talked to in New York that was like, "Hey, you're overthinking this," and he laid out the thesis. So I'm like, "Yeah, I see what you're saying." I still just think, even though Tesla is more than just a car company for sure, Q3 amazing numbers. Q4 I'm not sure about that. They're doing very well in China. NIO is really struggling actually. BYD, of course, Warren Buffett is out on that, which is kind of surprising. And so there's some headwinds to some of the Chinese EV stuff. But this EV tax credit going away is going to be a massive drag here on the United States sales. And even though they are more than a car company, that's going to be a drag. Now, the other thing that I see on Tesla, which I wouldn't say it's shifted like the needle a whole lot for me, but Tesla Energy itself, it's been doing well over the last couple of years. It's the reason why that unless you're talking to somebody that's just not been paying attention the last few years, why you can absolutely say Tesla is more than just a car company because they have meaningful revenue from the energy segment. Right now, with the massive ramp on data centers, electrical prices have gone up quite a bit since COVID. A lot of things have, but it's really starting to stress the grid. And Tesla is one of those things that has, with the megapacks, is a beneficiary for sure. And we'll see if there's actually some improvement on the residential side for solar. I think that's going to take a while, but at some point, the United States just has to say, okay, we need energy, period. Doesn't matter what form it is. We don't want to get in the way of that, and they'll open the floodgates. So, but for myself, what I'm hoping, and it may not happen at all because Tesla trades on a narrative, they're going to kill it in Q3. Q4 may be just absolutely abysmal, worse than the market expects. And the market maybe cares about that. If so, if we get a big pullback, that's when I'll go a lot heavier into Tesla. Otherwise, I have the position I like, and I'll just hold on to it. So what was the news that shifted? Because I know there's a couple of smaller ones. I'm probably forgetting something. You're muted. You're muted still. Yeah, StreamYard says you're muted too. If you guys can hear him, let me know. But all right, he's dropping out. So there you had it. That is the bull case from Tevis. There is none, and he was silent. So just kidding. No, I mean there are like legitimate reasons why. There you go, third Tevis.
That's so weird. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so last stream we talked about the shareholder vote, or at least the shareholder proposal, because I wanted to bring this up, and the brand damage. And one of the board members said, "Hey, look, like he's done with politics, and he's not going to focus on that anymore." And so I wanted to bring this up to reinforce that point, because it's, I think, an important point to be made about the growth story. Elon said a few days ago, burning the midnight oil with Optimus Engineering on Friday, red eye overnight to Austin at 5 a.m., spend some quality time with the kids on Saturday, then deep technical reviews for Tesla AI5 chip design, fly to the Colossus data center on Monday to walk the whole data center floor, review the progress there, depart from midnight, and up to 12 hours of back-to-back meetings across all Tesla departments with focus on AI autopilot and Optimus production plans. So this is exactly what we've been wanting from him for a long time. This insane, obsessant pace that is associated with that execution that has driven up that shareholder value. And I think that, with regards to the shareholder vote, that was the main catalyst to get him back into this wartime CEO mode. And from all indications, he is. We're seeing fewer political tweets. I think the friendship with Trump is something surface level. Like, I don't think he wants to or sees any value in going back into politics. I mean, he mentioned the All-In Summit, like government is basically beyond repair right now, and that the only hope is to grow out of the deficit, and Optimus is the key to unlocking that. So it's crazy because, like, my position in Tesla is obviously reduced relative to what it was at the beginning of the year. But when I see commentary like this, I'm like more bullish at 400s than I was at 300s, because I have seen this before, because I've been a shareholder through this before, and they did like a 10x basically. And so does that mean I'm automatically like building up my position again? No. I think the financials are still like pretty brutal for Tesla, and they have to really prove it out in the numbers. But this is all the right indications of them actually holding true to their word of recovering in 26 and 27 and accelerating in 28 and beyond.
Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical. If he is actually wartime CEO, if his attention is on Tesla, but he said similar things, not quite to this extent in the past. That's a really good thing for the company. If he's like, hey, we have to grow at all costs, otherwise we're dead in the water. And we can see, of course, the stock itself is up 70% in the last year to date. It's basically trading even with the S&P 500. Can you throw this up real quick, Tevis? There's one other thing I want to show too. Beyond, it's recovered a lot from being one of the worst performers. Again, like, stop me if you've heard that before. Now, my reaction to whether or not Elon is going to be focused on Tesla, that all the other stuff that he was focused on is done, is actually captured by this image right here. So, yeah, I'm a little skeptical. So, I was like, no reaction from you, Tevis? Come on.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's crazy, man. Like, there's a reason you don't bet against the guy, because he's done it so many times before. And I don't think I would ever in my life want to short Tesla at any valuation, as long as he's at the helm, just on the off chance that he's going to take it personally and, actually turn this around. But I think, like, so shorting is off the table. I think everything else is really like, what is the allocation that I want into Tesla? And right now, it's probably the lowest I've been in Tesla in the last 5 years. Granted, so much of that in the last 5 years was capital appreciation and just locking in gains, which a lot of that is needed regardless. So yeah, I'm more bullish. Of course, we have to see how the vote goes. He did also tweet earlier today or yesterday, depending on what time zone you're in, I guess, where he basically said that it's not about compensation, it's about ownership, because he wants to be able to have ownership to ensure the safety of Optimus.
Yeah, and that's a valid thing. That's the one thing that I think could keep him motivated. Beyond that, and like seeing what's good for humanity, but like I'm really skeptical. I think that it's just a matter of days that we're going to see him, kind of drift. Maybe not days, but weeks into other projects, other ideas, into the weird Grok Imagine stuff. Yeah, but you're right. Like, if we had certainty, if I actually believed, okay, Elon is really focused on Tesla and he's going to be really committed over the next few years, I would be buying even here. I just don't believe it.
Well, so what is that thing that you need to believe it?
I think I need to actually see him be focused and committed on the same thing for like probably multiple quarters, honestly.
Right.
And if that's the case, and there's execution, there will be execution if that's the case. Then I'll probably actually get pretty excited. I wouldn't say no matter what the price is, but I'd start adding and doing DCAing at that point. It's kind of like, when you're a parent, a little bit different situation, but when you're a parent and your kid is like, oh, I'm going to take out the trash, and then they don't, and you continue to tell them and they don't take out the trash, and then they tell you, well, don't worry, but I'll take it out in 5 minutes. You don't just turn your back and you wait. You sit there and you're like, okay, 5 minutes has gone by, and yeah, they've not done it, or oh yeah, they did it, great. And then if they continue that habit, you start to believe them. But with fool me once, shame on you. Fool me multiple times, shame on me. So yeah, it's hard for him. Like, there's so many things. He's a brilliant mind. He's amazing at creating and driving things to actually get done and happen. I think it's really just hard because he sees so many different problems. Trying to just focus on one thing, or mostly on one thing for a while, is just tough for Elon. So I'm not like besmirching the guy. I still really like and respect Elon. I just don't know that he can focus.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be very difficult for him to take a step back from Tesla, simply because, on one hand, I would imagine that he would want to go to something that's leaner with smaller teams that they can move faster. So XAI, for example, they accumulated a massive market cap in a very short period of time, relatively speaking. But on the other hand, I think that Tesla is the perfect accelerator program for him because of the deep pool of target rich resources that he has. Best engineers in the world, best software, engineers, architects, um, basically the smartest minds in the world to solve those problems, and he can allocate them at free will on SpaceX, on Tesla, on all of his other projects. And so Tesla is sort of like the nucleus, and everything that goes around it is all of his other like side hustles, so to speak. But he keeps rotating those resources. So I think he's always going to be in that ecosystem, whether he likes to or not. Because with him being the largest shareholder, let's say, and he steps out as CEO and he wants to pull like a Blue Origin type of endeavor like Bezos is, what do you think he's going to pull the best engineers from Tesla to for his new startup and hurt his own he's going to hurt his own, capital by doing that, right?
He's done it before, though. I think I think part of this too is like just there is that shareholder vote that's going to happen, and he's saying the right things basically to guarantee the vote. He bought like the most bullish thing that happened actually was him buying the stock. Just $1 billion buying. Insider buys are huge and significant, so he's not doing that to throw money into a furnace. So, but I'm just kind of questioning is it just so that he gets the yes vote? I don't think it's just, but is a large part of it that. And then once the vote is secured, it's like, okay, cool. After 2 weeks, he's back to the Elon that we've seen over the last couple of years.
TBD, time will tell.
Yep. So BMNR?
Yeah. Brock says, TJ once said it best, the bull case around Tesla is Elon, the bear case around Tesla is also Elon, so pick what you want.
Pick your Elon. I love it. Yeah, that's perfect.
We're going to answer all the questions at the very end. So all of these questions that are coming up, they're very good, and we are going to tackle them at the end. I already have 9 questions, actually 10 questions bookmarked. So we have a lot of show to get through, and we're going to tackle them all at the end. So yeah, let's move on to whatever you want to move on to next, Roy.
BMNR. We already talked some BMNR at the 18-minute mark, but let's do a little bit more here. Couple of things with BMNR. Let me actually pull up the most recent thing that they did. All right. So BMNR.
Yeah, we do have very quick HIMSS news as well, so we'll cover that too.
Yeah, and I don't want to go like super deep in this, but they do weekly updates, and I think this is important. A lot of people are shareholders too. Make sure that you follow this. This is like their IR account, essentially, BitMNR. They do very good updates, do a lot of retweets too from Fundstrat. And of course, they go to their investor relations site too, which they have. Each Monday, they come out basically with an update of what's new, what's changed. And so one of those big things is, of course, their holdings. We've seen the biggest thing this week was that they ended up doing a direct offering at $70. Now, remind me, Tevis, when was BMNR recently above $70? Because I don't see it here.
It was
been for some time. But no, realistically, so they sold at above market prices, but the offset of that right here is the warrants. Basically, warrants you could think of as options that you can have it at certain strikes at 87.50 or 42.7% premium at the time, expiring March 22nd, 2027. If BMNR does what it does, and they actually sold these at a discount, so they made more money here, sold these at a discount. So this was a sweetener to entice this. Now, overall, a lot of times, actually, most tickers, when you have a capital raise like this, the ticker drops. And BMNR did drop about 10% yesterday. But ultimately, like this is part of the model of BMNR is they sell above MNAV, above what the assets are under the actual custody, and they end up buying more Ethereum, which has allowed them to do things like become the second highest or the second largest DAT. So that's digital asset treasuries. Not in my mind. So you can see the others, by the way, that are Ethereum. SBET's down here. ETHM is here. Coin has a little bit, by the way, in the balance sheet. ETHZ BT, and then we get a lot smaller after that. So it
I
was
think
like this wasn't like the most bullish everything. I think it was bullish just because it shows that they can be creative and raise capital above strike prices if they need to, which alleviates some of the issue that some of the other tickers have had when they're trading well under MNAV. They have no cash or not very much cash, so they can't really buy back shares. They just have to wait and hope that they get a bid, and so they start trading above what their MNAV is. Otherwise, it's actually dilutive. So I like this overall, but it's not like, oh man, these people are stupid. They're buying $70 a share, a 14% premium when they could have just bought at market. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. There was also rumors around ETHZilla potentially getting acquired. I don't know if you saw this,
Yeah.
Roy. So I made a video around this, and interestingly enough, ETHZilla and BMNR dropped press releases on the exact same day, like within 20 minutes of each other, when BMNR announced that they're uh, raising more money and as a result buying more Ethereum to cross that 2% threshold.
Yeah, that's so the initial reason why people were thinking that this was a possibility with ETHZilla. Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is it's been trading under MNAV for a while. Now, usually you'd be like, okay, this is uh, trading way undervalued. That's where I'm going to go. I think actually the ability of BMNR to actually trade over MNAV and be able to sell overvalued shares and buy more underlying, which actually increases shareholder value, is an asset. That's actually what you want. Same with MicroStrategy. Like that's a really good thing for that type of business. It's a little bit backwards. So one of those things that they put out there in their investor relations page, kind of their strategy that they put out in August, is that over time they will look to acquire some of the other DATs that are out there that are trading under MNAV, and they offer a fair price close to the value of actual NAV. And so ETHZilla in the SEC filings, they actually had submitted, I can't remember the name of the document, but basically it's called a golden parachute clause. In essence, if ETHZilla gets acquired at some point, then the CEO, and I think there's like 3 or 4 employees for this entire business, there's not many, that he gets 3% of the value of whatever that accepted deal is. And so a lot of people read into that and they're like, oh man, this means between it trading way under MNAV, between the golden parachute clause that was added there, which is actually pretty common, like when you're in the process of being open to a merger or acquisition. And also with ETHZilla itself, they have a similar X account, basically not posting for a while. Then they're like, okay, it's being acquired. Now that's still a possibility, but we can see here today, if you throw this up, they BMNR had an update. So they had an update today, basically saying where they're at as a business. There are a lot of people that you can see in the comments that are not like super happy with them right now. So I do think at some point ETHZilla probably does get acquired unless this shifts and all of a sudden they're trading above MNAV. They can actually be active in the strategy again. But I think that they played their hand and basically they have to sit on their hands and wait. If Ethereum is trading, quite cheaply relative to a lot of bullish expectations at the end of the year, if we get to like something like 7,000, 7,500 by the end of the year, which is still short of Tom Lee's target, ETHZilla will be worth a lot more money at that point. And so I think they're not really burning cash. They can afford to wait for a while. And like ultimately, worst case scenario, the Ethereum has value. They can sell that back and just say, okay, we're done. So I think it's premature to even be thinking about a merger or acquisition unless BMNR was willing to come in and buy the Ethereum and buy out the company at a premium. Now there might be a small premium there, and there probably has to be in this instance. What's that?
Why wouldn't they buy them at a premium? Like they can acquire a massive block. ETHZilla is the 5th largest DAT, and even if they buy them at NAV or like 1.1 NAV, then the board would have a fiduciary responsibility to fulfill that, or at least take it seriously. And they knock out a competitor in doing so. Like I think, like knock out a competitor in the sense that the number 2, number 3, and number 4 players in that space won't do it first. And it's all gravy for them, man, because like they can do it through stock, so they don't need to like necessarily issue more and collect the proceeds and then use the proceeds to buy ETH. They just cut out a step and then it gives some stock to like acquire it through stock. And it's all in their 5% target allocation. So I think it makes sense.
I think the main thing is like they don't really burn cash, and so they can just kind of sit and wait. ETHZ is being able to get a yield that's higher than what traditional staking would actually get, and so I think that they're probably, because I mean obviously they're both bullish on Ethereum. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing, and so to sell their business when Ethereum is trading at like 4,300 bucks, I don't think that they do that now. If Ethereum spikes and it's trading at like 6,000 or something like that, Peter Thiel owns a large amount. He might say, okay, guys, pull the trigger, get this done. But I don't know. I think it's just a little bit early, and they kind of want to wait and see. But, you know, to your point, like BMNR, I think that they would trade a premium, would pay a slight premium. But if they're trading like 1.2 times the MNAV, just buy the Ethereum.
Yeah, I don't really know that it matters all that much because, like, if BMNR is buying them with all stock, then if Ethereum's at 4,000 and they get the stock, then the 4,000 is going to appreciate through BMNR stock when they go to 6,000. Versus if Ethereum's at 6,000, like it doesn't matter because, like, at the end of the day, they're going to have shares in BMNR, which is also a proxy to ETH. So
Yeah.
what I do think is, yep.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say is what I do think is important is this special shareholder meeting that they have on October the 7th, because I think that's going to be like the main day when we get some clarity whether there is a buyer, whether they're even looking to sell, or whether, you know, this is something different altogether.
That's where it's ETHZ?
Yeah.
Oh,
they have a special shareholder day on October 7th. So buy call options, not financial advice.
Yeah. No, actually, I did buy a few shares of ETHZ, and just, you know, in case that there is an actual, but BMNR is mostly where I'm at. Like it's a tiny thing. It's like 200 shares or something in ETHZ. So, and I'm not selling options on it, unlike BMNR. Yeah, we'll have to see, but they're positioned very well. I love the updates. The volatility, by the way, is a good thing. Even if you're not selling options, basically volatility lends to and the liquidity as well. They're actually more liquid. Let me pull this up just so you see I'm not making it up, because it blew me away when I saw this right here. So volatility is a friend because they trade way up, way under, or way over. They can do a lot with that. Way under, they can just buy back their stock. Way over, they can dilute and then buy the underlying, which increases shareholder value. And they seem to be maintaining. I think that's one of the reasons why that offering was so important, is we could see their cash on balance sheet was going down. And as a result, I don't think that they were like direly needing cash, but they needed it for the flexibility in case, and we're in September, that there's a big pullback, Ethereum falls, and then they're suddenly trading way under MNAV. Then they can buy back their stock and they're in a position to do so. So here, this came out from Treasury Edge, the top 5 most liquid crypto treasury names. This is from yesterday, not today. And we see BMNR right there above MicroStrategy, which is shocking. And do you see this letter here at the end, Tevis?
Yeah.
Like this is a massive goal.
Discrepancy.
Yeah, I really think that these digital asset treasuries, that this is the way that they'll mostly play, is predominantly I'm not. So if Ethereum goes to like 15,000, no matter what treasury you pick that has Ethereum, you're going to do well. But I think some are just going to gobble up most of the attention of institutions, and also retail have more flexibility because of that volatility, because of the liquidity as well, which is a really good thing for this strategy. And I think that I'm not saying Bitmine is going to consistently trade above MicroStrategy. Maybe it will here and there. But I think that the gulf between these two and everything else is going to continue to be substantial.
Yep. Yeah. And so with that said, I'm not surprised why so many people are excited about BMNR. I just find it interesting, right? Because in massive bull markets, or when people are simultaneously saying that, oh, the market is kind of toppy right now and we're running too hot, that's also the same market where like crypto becomes so mainstream that people are talking about crypto again. Nobody was talking about BMNR or even Ethereum in 2022 and 2023. Why? Because there were so many companies that were like dirt cheap relative to what they were putting up. And now it's like crypto offers returns on steroids. And as a result, people are talking about them because it's a time right now where 50% gains gets you laughed out of the room because it's so low.
Yeah. Give me 50% gains every year and I will be a rich man.
You're already rich very quickly.
You're the financial advisor to the Pope. So, I mean, you're doing okay. But
yeah, well, no comment. I was going to comment something, but then I thought maybe not.
No, that's confidential between him and you. All right. Some people are actually going to believe that at some point, but
yeah, I mean, if they believe it, man, they like, I don't know what to tell you, man. You've not seen the stream often enough.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the next topic. Tevis, what do you have for us?
Next topic is, let me take a look at the notes here. So we did BMNR. Ooh, okay. There's a bunch of stuff actually. Holy moly, we have a lot of topics to talk about. Buffett sold his entire BYD stake. Anything to comment on that, Roy? That's a small one.
So I think, I'm not in BYD at all. I don't usually allocate any money towards Chinese stocks, but that's neither here nor there. I think what Buffett's doing, a lot of his strategy is to raise capital for his predecessor. And just, he's at some point going to retire or pass away. And he wants to make sure that the person that comes after him will be able to, have the flexibility. And there's nothing more flexible than cash to be able to make the moves that they want, which I think that this is basically a signal that Berkshire Hathaway is open to going into a different and new direction. Now, I don't think that that means that they're going to start buying like Tesla and Meta and things like that. They could, but he wants to give that flexibility there. So now, as far as the actual reason, maybe he'll comment on it at some point. But usually when he gets out of position, he does not look back. So,
yep. Okay, cool. So we can move on from that. Maybe, so I'll give you a choice between three topics: Meta, the AR glasses in the demo, the TikTok deal being finalized, or NVIDIA to invest money into Intel and or OpenAI.
I'd like 2 out of the 3, but let's do Meta. Okay. Did you see the demo?
Yeah, let me throw the demo up right now, and we can watch together.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this is great.
Uh-oh. Well, let's see what happened there.
This is like the worst video on the demo.
That's too bad. I don't know what happened. Maybe Buzz can try calling me again. All right. Well, I got a missed video call. Okay, there's the actual video call. All right. I'm just going to pick that up with my neural band. This is, it happens. Yeah, let's, what do you think? Let's just go ahead and...
WhatsApp video call.
Let's go for a fourth.
I think it froze or paused, but there was a lot more of that. Like almost nothing went right. They blamed poor Wi-Fi, which it could be. But yeah, this is not how you want to do a product demo. Of course, Tesla and Elon Musk were criticized for the Cybertruck, in that infamous time when they're like, hey, look, the windows won't break, and they got smashed to bits. If I remember correctly, I think that hit the stock pretty hard too. Meta, it wasn't as big of a hit at all. Of course, they're been up a lot this year. I don't think anybody's like taking this. Well, I guess, what's your takeaway from this before I share mine, Tevis?
Oh, man. So first, before we just go to the takeaways, let me also play another video. And this is the marketing promotion. We're going to get demonetized. So I'm sorry, Roy. We're going to spend 2 hours and make $0. But that's nothing new for this podcast. So let me play this. So essentially, these are the new smart glasses. Let me pull this to the other screen so I can actually see us. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna play this.
Like this. Watch me. Go.
Yeah, so the first comment on that video is Tim Cook needs to be fired because how did Apple not become this? Which I 1000% agree with. The second part, obviously, that Apple should have been jumping on this market. I mean, this thing was not because we're not smart like you, Tanner. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, I was about to say mute the video.
Apple should have absolutely capitalized on this. Like Google Glass was what, 2013, and they were working on this. Now, with regards to the Meta demo, I think everybody on X was like crapping on Meta that it was a train wreck and that it was horrible. But like, I kind of agree with this post. You know, let me roll this out. So this is where I got the video, and you know, he basically says, "Look, this is exactly how disruption actually looks. It's not a fancy advertisement. It's a founder on stage, sweating bullets." And of course, the most famous example of this, I'm sure we can all think of the same one, which is Steve Jobs. The future doesn't roll out in cinematic 4K. It's buggy. It's real, so on and so forth. So basically saying, hey, look, like to borrow a Chamath-ism, he's in the arena trying things. Meanwhile, everybody else is holding their cards close to their chest and rolling out, you know, like Apple rolls out the most beautiful polished promotion videos. And when can you point me the last Apple innovation in the last 3 years, for example?
Yeah, no, that's a good takeaway. Mine is roughly similar. Like I still remember that initial metaverse demo that Zuck did. That was honestly like, I think everything went okay if I remember correctly, but it was so underwhelming, like so bad, and it tanked the stock further. Like Meta got down, you know, below $100 just because of that. Not just because of that, but a lot of it was because of that. This right now, like you said, Apple's great at making things look like that they work really well, that are non-functional or things that will never be shipped. It's not outright fraud, but they have the polish down, but they don't actually have the products. Here, Meta's been doing a lot better as far as polish, but they actually have products. They brought over a huge number of people for AI, like the glasses. I don't know like who's actually going to use them or anything, but that should have been an Apple product. You're right. They've done a lot of CapEx expenditure, and they're seeing fruits of that labor. So I don't think that this is bearish for Meta at all. It's one of those funny moments. Steve Jobs had some demos. I wouldn't say quite this bad, but they had some demos that went very poorly, and yet they were great products. So I think that the market and individuals seem to be very reactionary. And there's a lot of people that hate Meta, kind of me. But we can be too reactionary and just say, hey, this company is going down in flames, single digits soon.
So that reminded me actually with a lot of people that hate Meta. And yeah, what I will say on that last piece is I would rather them roll out a demo that breaks every now and again and then see the massive progress year on year than them waiting for like imagine if do you remember when Tesla announced Optimus and it was just a guy in a bodysuit dancing? And then the next year they had a robot with like cables that they were worried was going to fall down to make 3 steps. And then the year after that, they had the robot with the Tesla belt buckle, and it was like just walking. And then after that, they had it at the event serving drinks with a remote control. And now it's like, you know, Mark Benioff is like, go get me a can of Coke. And it kind of does it. Like, I would rather that slow progression on a yearly basis than them being like, hey, we're working on a robot. Talk to you in 6 years when it's perfect. You know, like it doesn't make sense because you can actually judge the pace of innovation through that. And there was actually another piece of Meta news. I don't know if you saw this, Roy, because it was sort of shrouded in in the glasses piece, but I saw this post yesterday, and I thought this was really interesting. Meta just shook up the dating app industry. Did you see this, Roy?
Yeah, I did.
So they have this new AI dating assistant to combat swipe fatigue. So
I think it's cool, actually.
it's very cool. Match is down 5%. Of course, Match has a bunch of most of the dating apps, and then Bumble is the only one that they don't have. Bumble was also down. I mean, Bumble's been down all year long, or I mean, since they IPO'd. But this is really cool, and it's really cool because Facebook already has all of your data. It already has all of your preferences. It already has everywhere you've traveled. All your text messages on WhatsApp and Instagram. It has so much data on you, and so I think like they can really thrive in this space. And overall, man, like Meta, I'm sure people love to hate them, but like if there was one company that I can go back in time and invest in, it would be them, because Zuck is just still killing it every single year.
And this, I'm pretty critical of Meta. I think a lot of what they do can and will be disruptive and perhaps destructive of society, especially social media for teenagers, kids. We're very careful with our daughter who's 12 for that reason. Yeah, Black Mirror stuff. This though, like I think it's really cool that instead of and yeah, like if somebody wants to have a billion choices, they'll use another app or something. But I think that you can have decision paralysis in that environment, or you're always looking for, well, this one's like 99% match, but I've never done a dating app, so I don't know how they work. But that you're just looking for the next best thing. The grass is greener on the other side, and you don't actually sit down for a minute and like consider, like, is this person a good match? And maybe I'll chat them up. We'll see. But I've heard from friends and family like how miserable and difficult the dating scene is right now for a lot of people. I'm just talking to guys, so maybe it's different for girls. And dating apps can help, you get you on a date, but are usually pretty poor at actually helping you find a match that's viable. So are you going to try it, Hevis?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't have Facebook or Instagram, but if those are not prerequisites, which I'm sure they will be, then I'll try it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from Meta. This doesn't make you want to buy Meta any. I know you have like an ethical qualm with them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Speaking of Meta, do you see the TikTok deal got finalized and the U.S. government wants a board seat now?
Yeah. So like going back to like Intel kind of breaking the ice on that, but I don't really like the United States government having a stake in a lot of companies or a lot of things, like even the TikTok stuff.
Hold on, let me throw up the video and you can do the timestamp. Here you go. This is what we are referring to.
TikTok, could you tell me, is the U.S. government going to take a board seat in the company, and will the U.S. government get a board seat within the company?
Well, we're going to announce that. Are you talking about TikTok? Yeah, we're going to announce it. But it's a great deal for our country. It's a great deal for all of the young people in the country that wanted it. People generally. I was happy with it. Look, I wasn't a fan of TikTok, and then I got to use it, and I became a fan, and it helped me win the election in a landslide. So,
yeah, that's Trump saying that we're going to announce it, and you have to stay tuned for more.
Yeah, I do. So I do like that it's basically on a U.S. tech stack. It's nice that it's not disruptive for creators and people that actually use it. I don't use TikTok. Again, like that type of social media, I think is more harm than good, especially for very young people, very impressionable minds. But I'm not saying like censor it or end it or anything. So like this deal, Oracle, I think is really a beneficiary from this. They've been doing a lot of stuff right, which is in my stock draft it's helping it. It's a good thing that this is finally done.
Yeah, I like Oracle is a sleeper pick, dude. I don't know if anybody took it in our draft, but like
took it.
Oracle and OpenAI, Oracle and TikTok, Oracle everywhere. And the fact that it went up like 38% off the back of like a couple weeks ago, off the back of like one single news piece, like just shows you how much of a sleeper pick the market thinks this is. And yeah, so you're going to see a U.S. control of TikTok, and Oracle is going to play a role in that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, how the product changes. Of course, if you travel and you have a Coca-Cola in the U.S. and you have one in Europe and you have one in Asia, it's going to have 3 different tastes as a result of the ingredients. In this case, it's software, so it's going to have different algorithms in terms of what it shows you. So TBD, but I think like Oracle is coming out to be one of the big winners of 2025 across the board.
Yeah, that massive spike too was just crazy on the demand there. So yeah, here's our stock draft portfolio. I took it later than I expected, but it was
Go into the second sheet, I think.
Yeah, second. It has the charts. There we go.
Yeah, you have it up if you scroll up. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yay. So yeah, I took it, later than I actually thought I did. But yeah, I saw Oracle as a really good sleeper pick. Also Lululemon, which has been absolutely trash. So,
bro, I'm sorry. Is Gemini up 51%? What the heck is going on here?
Is that accurate? Because it was way under what? Okay, let's take a look at this.
It owns OKLO. It owns OKLO. That's why.
Oh yeah. This was one that I think I'd mentioned that there's like 3 stocks on my list. Joby was one, OKLO was one, and I don't remember the other. That I'm like these. I was really thinking of taking in that last round. I wish that we had a couple more rounds. I would not have taken like anything else at this own, but yeah, OKLO has been on a tear. Lots of revenue for OKLO, except pre-revenue 0. But I mean, it's positioned very well in nuclear energy. Like the crazy thing is, this was the reason why OKLO had been on a run prior to the draft. This is probably a little hard to see. Let me zoom in. And so I was like, well, if OKLO is trading in the 40s, I would have taken it. But at 60, I'm like, maybe I'll do it like 10th, 11th round, and in like 134%, 135%. I got a friend that's actually big in OKLO. Robinhood and OKLO are two big positions, so he's doing okay for himself.
Yeah,
versus the rest of us.
Since OKLO was one of our topics, maybe I can share my screen a little bit because I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I don't know anything about OKLO, so please treat me like a 5-year-old here. But yeah, massive $6 at this time last year, and it's now over $120. I don't follow this, so I don't know what it closed at today. I found this post to be really interesting, right? I don't know if you saw this, saying it's incredible how a company with no revenue is up 1,500% in a year from 8 to 135. Research by this guy found that there's insider selling, founded by a husband and wife. Both have no practical experience. Caroline has no research publications. Jacob has only student-era publications. They do have a strong educational background. They have a master's and a PhD in nuclear engineering from MIT. Sam Altman stepped down as chairman. Their website is, on their website, their list of achievements stops in 2021. And it's like, and they don't make any revenue, like a $20 billion valuation for a pre-revenue company. So yeah.
So I think some of this is just like nonsense of like, oh no, insider selling and founded by a husband. Like, dude, if your stock is up 1,500% and you have graduated, you got a little money, but you have life-changing money as somebody that founded a company, you should sell and change the life of your family. Like, do that. Having no achievements or scholarly, like that's not that big of a red flag. Practical knowledge, like I can't remember the age, but I believe that they're fairly young. Like that's not uncommon for that age. It's like the frustrating thing of a lot of these job hirings are like entry level job, want 5 years of experience. It's like, how do you do that? Bottom line, like what's driving this is a proper understanding of the market that nuclear is frankly where we should have been building anyway. For much of the country, there are places where it makes more sense than others. We need a lot of energy. Now with nuclear, it's not just like you're like, okay, we're going to start up a nuclear company and like 3 months later you're breaking ground. There's a long line of things that you have to do, a lot of red tape. I actually have a family member that works for a nuclear power plant as well, and he's explained some of the stuff with me. But like, it's great that the United States has embraced nuclear energy and is supportive of it. They're breaking ground too, but it will be years before they actually have revenue. I don't know how to value OKLO. I just knew when it was, trading like 20, 30, 40, I was pretty interested, but there's other things I was more interested at the time. Had to get more PayPal. So yes.
Yeah, exactly this. Hey guys, I'm starting a nuclear company. We're pre-revenue. Give me $20 billion, please.
So this is more than an idea, though, Varun. They have regulatory approval. They're breaking grounds. They have a lot of partnerships. They have people in the board seat. They've hired a number of people as well. Like I think this is a real project. It's further away from revenue, kind of like quantum, but maybe less sketchy. I don't know if it's overpriced or not. I don't know how to value something like this that is such a high valuation, a lot of potential, but also really pre-revenue. I think it's on the expensive side, personally.
Really? Yeah, it's insane, dude. It's $20 billion.
But I mean, that's also like the kind of the market and the conditions of the market that we're in right now of momentum plays. Like I read this article on Snacks, or Robinhood Snacks, that basically said that the number one basic strategy that was outperforming this year was the momentum play, more so than large cap tech or anything else. Just focusing on, okay, what stocks have been running, buy those stocks. And it works to an extent. But at some point when there's pullbacks, of course, it gets pulled back. Like Gemini, do we expect Gemini will close the year up 51%? I don't think so. No, like there will absolutely be pullbacks. Some of the names that they're invested in, like Plug Power. I mean, I don't follow Plug Power. Should they be up 118%? Probably not. Of course, they're in a lot of small cap stuff too. Like Neo is like going through terrible hard times. It's up 100%. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, NFTs work to an extent, and like it works until it doesn't work. And I think, like, again, this is all stuff that's emblematic of euphoric times where things are going up and you're buying because of they're going to make like, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like what was it, QuantumScape and these types of companies that they're like, oh yeah, it's AI, it's whatever the hot topic is, and we're going to make revenue in 4 years. So buy now, and the valuation would go to like insane. What is QuantumScape right now? Is it still listed? I'm actually curious.
It should be. Let's see.
If this thing is higher than what it was in 2021, I'm gonna eat my shoe.
All right, we'll take
I hope
a
it's
look
not.
here. Here's 5 years out.
Okay, yeah, that's what I expected.
Yeah, S&P 500 is up 82. Yep, 82%, or 83 almost. This is down 63. Yeah, things can go through bubbles. QuantumScape was like so far pre-revenue, and I think OKLO is a lot better position. Like they will have revenue. They are a real company. I'm not seeing any like huge red flags. They're just a long ways away from revenue. QuantumScape. This is battery technology, right? Am I thinking of something else?
I have no idea, dude. And I should not make statements like this when I don't know the answer for sure, because that was really scary for a second there.
Let's see, batteries. Is this on my battery? Yeah, it's a battery technology. So Amprius is one of those. Innovix, Solid Power, SLDPR. Those are all ones that, like at the time, the market caught the narrative. Narrative drives with the short term. Fundamentals drive with the long term. Now the difference is they basically were experimenting, were coming out with some promising breakthroughs, but that type of technology is so far away from actual mass cells and also not guaranteed to work. Amprius is actually looking pretty interesting right there, right now. That's a very different setup than OKLO, which is just like They have the funding, they have the regulatory approval, they have people in place, and they will have revenue. They will do well, and there's a huge, massive, insane demand for energy. So I don't. I might think that the price is frothy. Maybe it goes up more. Maybe it doesn't. It's ahead of itself, but like I don't think it's going to do what QuantumScape did, where it just plummets over 5 years, goes down 63%. I wouldn't expect that.
Roy, we still have so many freaking topics, and we still have so many questions. Like, this might actually be a 6-hour stream.
Yeah, I'm not doing 6 hours, but yeah, I love being here.
Okay, so man, I gotta pick and choose what I want because there's some that might not be chosen. But H1B visas, this one I really want to talk about because this is an interesting one. I have like 7 tweets that I've bookmarked for this. So maybe you can do the chapter, and then I'll throw up these tweets here.
Yep. What's the topic?
H1B visas.
Okay. All right, give us the pitch.
So Trump signed an executive order for H1B visas. Did you hear about this?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually insane because he's putting a crazy fee on H1B visas to like 100,000 for the application, even if the application is denied. And then it's like 100,000 every single year. And I'm like, dude, like at that point, just freaking cancel the program. It's like, who's going to pay for this? And I made a tweet. I said, look, like what this does is it really it gates everything under 400K, right? Because there's nobody that's going to hire a 100K employee and then end up paying 200K, right? So they're just going to hire locally, or they're going to move offices. Let me play these clips and or tweets, and then we can have a longer discussion on it. Okay, first of all, there's this. It's a minute video. He's just
One of
signing
the
the
most
document.
abused visa systems in our current immigration system has been the H1B non-immigrant visa program. This is supposed to allow highly skilled laborers who work in fields that Americans don't work in to come into the United States of America. What this proclamation will do is raise the fee that companies pay to sponsor H1B applicants to $100,000. This will ensure that the people they're bringing in are actually very highly skilled and that they're not replaceable by American workers. So it'll protect American workers, but ensure that companies have a pathway to hire truly extraordinary people and bring them to the United States.
We need workers. We need workers. We need great workers. And this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen. I think, Sean, do you agree with that?
Well, they're $100,000 per year. So the whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land. Train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here. $100,000 a year for H1B.
I don't know why people are saying they can't hear it. Can you hear me, Roy?
Yeah, I can. It's soft though.
Okay, well, that's the gist. It's 100,000 per year to H1B visas. So there's a couple of tweets that I want to share. First of all, this individual says it's going to be really devastating in the medical field because about 30% of residents are international medical graduates, with 10,000 of 40,000 residency spots filled by doctors with H1B visas. Previously, the fee was under $5,000. No hospital is going to pay $100,000 for a $55,000 resident salary. This is another post. It's possible that the 100,000 H1B visa, especially if it's per year or per term, actually increases the federal deficit because the taxes that those individuals pay. So here you can see that some contributions, average compensation to new H1Bs under the alternative section methods. On the average new arrival would have earned 70,000 more in 2023 than what the lottery gave us. And so they have a model to basically say like, hey, like these people are contributing to society. They're getting paid high salaries, but they're also paying taxes. They're paying benefits. They're stimulating the local economy. Here, prediction: within 6 months, a major tech company will announce they're moving their entire AI division to Toronto. Maybe not Toronto. It could be the UK. It could be Dubai. It could be any European capital. They won't cite. They won't mention H1B visa. They'll mention talent availability, cost optimizations, and basically saying that these businesses are going to be incentivized to look elsewhere to avoid this tariff. And I called it a tariff on human labor because that's essentially what it is. It's not a tariff on raw materials or whatever. It's a tariff on people. Similar concept here. It's going to incentivize American companies to open offices overseas. This is what the research is showing. So you can see foreign employment goes up when stuff like this happens. This is a long post about how exactly that happens. And then finally, I have this post, which is from Ask Perplexity. And here you can see the H1B salaries. So this is a 2025 report. Let me move us. 2025 report, which shows the average salary and the number of individuals. So you can see the Amazon has the most, and then you have like consulting companies, Google, Microsoft, Meta, so on and so forth. Now, the idea here is if this does pass, first of all, is it going to be for new people and it's going to be like a slow stream? Or is it going to be like, hey, everybody needs to renew and this is the cost? Because it's going to cause a lot of disruption in the existing system. Like if Amazon needs to replace 11,000 people, that's going to be wild. Because out of those 11,000, maybe 1% of them or 2% of them, they would be willing to pay the $100,000 tariff on. Everybody else would get fired or moved elsewhere. Yeah, but okay, so only new, but like what happens when renewal time comes around for the existing holders?
I mean, it's supposed to be one time, but like, can you throw this up? Like this actually infuriates me. And Nihar, said he's an H1B holder. Lutnick scared him, and it was clarified later. This is a press secretary, and it's she said, hey, to be clear, because it was not clear with how Lutnick portrayed things at all. I think I think that he should never been in his position. I think he should have been let go after the tariff debacle. I think this is just another indication that he's in way over his head. Like he's good at what he has done in the past, but she said it's not an annual fee. It's a one-time fee that applies. Those who already hold H1B visas and are currently outside of the country right now will not be charged $100K to re-enter. Only applies to new visas. It'll first apply to the next upcoming lottery cycle. And yet they're like, well, but Lutnick said, yeah, Lutnick is causing a lot of fear and confusion, which is not good. And honestly, like they're both in the Oval Office. They need to get their act together and quit like saying, well, this, and then over here, like the opposite. It's ridiculous. It's unprofessional. And, I think ultimately whoever's responsible there, probably Lutnick, should be held to account. Now, as far as the H1B visas, I think two things. One is there is I think that it's a net benefit for the United States by far. You're bringing some of the most intelligent, brightest people in the world, including Nihar, over here. They are paying taxes. There are fees associated with this as well. And you're putting them oftentimes in positions where there's just not enough talent there. You can see this overwhelmingly benefits large cap tech, although there's certainly some names off that list, including Palantir, by the way. But Amazon, like, that's a lot of H1B visas. And I kind of question it to that extent. What I think would have been a more elegant solution. Businesses already pay an employer tax. If you've never worked for yourself, if you never run a business, you may not be aware of it. But basically what you pay in taxes, the business is also paying taxes for you. And if you're a United States citizen, they're also paying their share of Social Security taxes. It's a double tax if you're self-employed like I have been in the past or have your own business. What I think would have been more elegant is if they did something rather than like $100,000 fee or something like that, which is, it could, if it was implemented in the way that Lutnick had said, drive jobs overseas, which seems to be the opposite of the strategy that they're trying to posit back in April, bringing jobs over here in the United States. Instead, they could say, you know what, let's double what the employer is paying in terms of taxes, and maybe have something in there regarding SBC, just in case they're trying to do a workaround with really heavy SBC rather than actual salary. And that might have been better, so that they would like at least they still use H1B visas, not abuse it maybe to the extent of Amazon. People could still come over, but ultimately the company has to say, okay, is this person that we're getting overseas, 15% better than what we could get here in the United States? In a lot of cases, the answer would be yes, absolutely. And large cap tech, frankly, can afford to pay that price. $100,000, I think. I don't know. It's confusing. It's not as bad as what Lutnick had posited initially, but yeah.
Yeah, look, I think so. I see a lot of people commenting saying, like, correcting us. And I think the fact that, I didn't even see the Carolyn Levitt post that you threw up, and it just speaks to how chaotic this whole thing was. And I want to pull up this post as well. You guys have no idea, because it was not immediately clear that this was applied to new visas only. Thousands of visa holders from the US vacationing abroad canceled their trips midway to rush back to the USA. I saw posts on X around how inflated flights had become. They were going for like $5 or $6 grand because people like needed to find a flight before the September 21st to basically make sure they could still stay in the US. And so like I just think that speaks to the sloppiness of this rollout. Now, in terms of the H-1Bs, I think the tax idea is good, but even if you go one step more than that and you just go like, hey, let's take a look at these salaries again, and we can say to ourselves, all right, well, we're now not going to have 100,000, but we're going to make it 25,000, or even 50,000. Because if you look at the average salaries here, then this should really be an indicator. Nowhere here would an extra $100,000 on top have any utility for you to hire somebody external, even if they're 20% better or 30% better than a local person. You're paying double. So my point is, if you really want to be super aggressive with H1Bs to incentivize local economy, whatever, whether right or wrong, you could have a more reasonable tax. You could have 25K, for example, and then I can make the assessment of saying, hey, do I want to hire somebody locally for 100, or somebody from abroad for 100 plus the 25 on top? Are they 25% better? What's my budget? So on and so forth. Like it's a pill that's easier to swallow than the 100K, especially as you go into higher salary brackets. One of the things that I made in my post was that I'm not sure if people are aware of this or think of this, but like I have a lot of open roles right now, and I'm hiring consistently, and I have hired throughout the years consistently, and a lot of times we'll use headhunters and executive recruiters. And those firms usually take 17 to 23% off the top. So of what that person's salary is for higher roles, they would take 20% off. So companies, if it's the right role, if it's like a leadership position or a mid-level management position, they're not like a stranger to paying 20% off the top. But if you're paying double the salary, then it's like I can hire Roy, and Roy can be 50% better than anybody else I could find in the US. Or I could just literally hire 2 people to do Roy's job because it comes out to the same exact amount.
So, yeah, I think that we're in alignment there. It's still just shocking, like how I know Amazon hired a lot of people, but they're on that list twice. I don't know if you saw that. Pull it back up real quick. It's wild.
They're not on that list twice, actually. They're on that list like 3 times.
Oh, really? I must have missed one.
Yeah. So you have like different departments. You have Amazon.com here, and then you have HCL or
Amazon Web Services
and Amazon Development Center. Yeah. Okay. So twice.
Yeah. Oh, it's underneath your picture. Okay.
And Amazon Web Services. So,
yeah.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. So they're on that list 3 times.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
That's a little extreme. So
it's a company, man. They have like what hundreds of thousands of employees.
Still, yeah. I don't know. So I do feel like I don't know. We'll have to see what actually happens. But yeah, the thing that annoys me the most is just the way that this kind of stuff is rolled out. that it inspires fear, it inspires chaos, it disrupts, people that are on vacations. It's like, dude, Duck had said, he put a comment there. My friend who's on H1B visa started getting reservations for a wedding venue in the US just in case. I saw some tweets on there where like there's people, or I think reposted from Reddit of like, should I divorce my husband and marry somebody that has a green card so I can say, it was like, this is bad. Don't do it this way. If you want to do a policy change, you do it in a way that is clear, it's understandable. People know exactly what's happening. You shouldn't need the press secretary to come out and say, to be clear, because it really wasn't, here's what we're actually going to do. It's terrible.
I see this comment here from Duck, and like, I know it's tongue in cheek, but I think it's actually like true. Like, if you wanted to hurt American innovation, this would be the best way to do it. Because like, you're basically forcing all the top talent to go elsewhere. And maybe there's not like, yes, SF or New York City is the only game in town, but not for long if all the people, if nobody can reach those cities, right? So Toronto, Dubai, London, all of these, I think, will benefit from this. I mean, TBD, right? Because I saw some other posts from the administration saying like, Trump was working on rolling out a new plan to sort of replace this and to encourage skilled workers and high value like tech workers. So there might be something that replaces the H1B system, and this is just like the first shock to the system. So I don't know what that is going to end up being. Anyways, so that's the H1B. And by the way, I saw this this post from Duck. We'll just wait for Roy to rejoin. I saw this post from Duck saying, hey, like a ton of Canadians go to work in the US through H1B. Canadians also have the TN visa. So it's a little bit different. I think it's easier for Canadians as well because they have multiple types of visas. Welcome back, Roy.
Thanks.
Okay, shall we move on to another topic?
Yeah, let's take a pick of one more, and then we'll do the quick reaction with the question. So your pick, Tevis. It's like choosing your favorite child.
Oh man. Okay, so we can talk about BETR, which is your favorite child,
or we could pick out 4, and we'll make it a poll. I think you have more viewers right now than I do, but I'll do a poll on this side too.
Sure.
The topic that wins. So
sure. Let's start a poll. And the options in the poll, what should the next topic be? Question mark. The options on the poll are:
should we last cover?
Okay. Option number 1, BETR.
And hopefully our internet holds together, but what options?
Option number 1 is BETR. Option number 2 is NVIDIA invests in OpenAI plus INTC. Option number 3 is what are people using ChatGPT for? And finally, option number 4 is going to be HIM's new product launch in October.
All right. I'm
Ready?
launching it on mine, and you launch it on yours, and we'll give it a minute or so here. We will get, if you guys have questions on any of those that we don't cover, throw that in the comments. We'll do that in rapid fire, but we probably won't be nearly as doing a deep dive nearly as much on those. Hopefully I'm not frozen up and you guys can hear me.
Yep. So maybe while we do that, we can answer just a few quick questions.
Yeah. We'll let that run for a couple minutes.
BMNR acquiring ETHZ, we talked about that. Are you guys still in Duolingo? What did you think of their event last week?
I am out of Duolingo. I ended up, I got in it. I'm like, hey, I like the company. I've liked it a long time. I don't think that they're being heavily disrupted by AI. There's a little bit there, but like it's very niche. But BMNR was just a higher conviction. And I was still, when I bought Duolingo, I'm like, is this a swing or is this a long-term position? I wasn't sure at the time. BMNR. Tevis, you have some, right?
I do have Duolingo. I have cash secured puts as well on Duolingo. I thought the event last week was underwhelming. The LinkedIn partnership was not like that exciting in the grand scheme of things. I saw this thing bounce back above 300. I think that right now where I'm sitting, it's more of a trade or something that I want to limit to like 3% or less of the portfolio and not, I think it's currently sitting at like 4.5 to 5% of the portfolio. I want to trim that down. I want to go heavier into probably Nebius, honestly.
I was going to say BMNR.
Well, BMNR is already like,
Yeah.
it's already like 6% or so. So yeah, it is what it is. Okay. How is your poll looking?
ChatGPT usage is a #1 pick at 44%, and NVIDIA invests in OpenAI and IMTC at 33%. So what about for yours?
ChatGPT usage is the lowest.
That's funny.
NVIDIA is the second lowest. HIM's new product launch in October is the highest, and BETR is a close second.
Okay, so we're going to do shorter versions of the two highest on each of ours, which is really hilarious. So ChatGPT usage, Tevis, you can take the lead on this one. And which one did you say was the highest on yours, the HIMS product launch?
The HIMS, honestly, the HIMS product launch is just like a 2-minute segment, but
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
let's do both.
Okay, let's because I found this to be really interesting. I don't know. Okay, OpenAI just leaked what people use ChatGPT for. So you can see here, it says a breakdown of granular conversation topics within the course mapping defined in Table 3. The underlying classifier prompt is available, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. 1.1 million people, 1.1 million sampled conversations from May 2024 through June 2025. So it's fairly recent. Reflects total message volume on a given day. So basically, this is what people are using ChatGPT for. And you can see that practical guidance is the top category at 28.3%. That's split with how to do stuff, tutoring or teaching. And then writing is 28.1%. That's split with like, personal writing or communications, editing, text, translation, 4.5%. And then you have technical help, so programming, 4.2%. That actually surprised me how low that is. Mathematical calculations, people are using it as a calculator, I guess. Multimedia, so create an image, 4.2%. So this is like the Grok Imagine of the world and the ChatGPT, generate, and like the whole like cartoon image craze. Our thumbnail is also like that. Self-expression, so greetings, chit chat, relationship advice, and then other unknown, so just random stuff.
Yeah, so like
what do you
33% basically cheating at school, and then the rest not.
Yeah. So what are your high-level thoughts? So first of all, I thought computer programming was kind of low. Specific info for 18%. It's like the single highest individual category. And then teach me something. How do I do something? Give me ideas.
Yeah. So there's a lot of LLMs out there. Of course, this has the market's attention. It has a lot of companies' attention as well, and rightfully so. The specific information the Google logo right there, that's what is actually disruptive towards Google. Of course, Google has Gemini as well, and its search is being disrupted. It's being changed. There's a lot of LLMs searching, and it's not that LLMs don't search for all these others, but that is very disruptive to search. It's actually lower than I thought it would be on that. The other surprise, let's see, where was it? So I've seen a lot of like the chatbot stuff, the self-expression stuff. I actually would have thought that was higher, and that was where I was like concerned with some of the stuff, just because I've tested a couple of different LLMs. I was curious of because I've heard horror stories of people like having AI psychosis. They get drawn in, and it's all affirming, and there's some truth to that for sure. But I've also heard some of if you want to kill yourself or whatever, and you put that out there, then this, if you push hard enough, it'll tell you how to do that. Whenever I was looking at this is months ago, like OpenAI didn't have that issue. Gemini didn't have that issue. I don't think I tried it on Grok. But the other thing, the other big takeaway is like this is a huge, broad array of topics that could have been broken down further. This really just, I think, shows the flexibility of what AI is capable of. It's not like it was in 2023 where skeptics, and it was too new to know, but skeptics were like, hey, this is just like a really fancy chatbot. Like, well, no, clearly it's a lot more than that. And there's almost any discipline that you can actually use and benefit from LLMs. And of course, there's ways to abuse it and cheat. And there is actually a lot of cheating going on. You can see the drop off after people aren't students. And then, like, lastly is I at the school that I'm at, I'm a PhD candidate working on my dissertation. Met with my mentor last Monday, and actually after our session, we just shot the breeze and talked about AI LLMs and students cheating and what the university was doing to try to catch that. But there was a shift there, and they're one of the more massive universities is Liberty University. Like there's, I don't know, when I was working there was like 120,000 students online. There's others that are doing this in the same direction, but every single class, there's a module that's basically focused on how can AI further your understanding or be useful in this topic, in this field, and how can you legitimately use this without cheating. Now, I think that there's more to work out from what my mentor had said, but it's so broad. And I think that that's very exciting because it shows like this is not going back to that initial topic of the bubble. If this was a bubble, you'd be like, okay, like the self-expression stuff might be like 80% or something like that. That's all it's good for, not math. Very last thing is like on the coding, you said that surprised you. If you look at Anthropic, there's not studies on this, but I mean, that's what Anthropic does best is that back end, that coding support. And I think that as we move further down this line, certain models will be specialized heavily and very, very good at certain things. Not that any of them will be bad necessarily, any one thing, just Claude and Anthropic have a very clear advantage on that front.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very important distinction, is because different LLMs are used for different purposes. Now, I don't know how much of that is the Twitter echo chamber where like me and you are super like hyper aware of what LLMs to use at any given time. I have subscriptions to like Gemini, I have subscriptions to ChatGPT, I have subscriptions to Grok. Some of them are through my most of them are through my company, but I also have like Grok is the one that I pay for personally. And I use all three for different purposes because they have different benefits. The average person off the street probably just uses ChatGPT, but like there is a margin of error here of the people that use different LLMs for different purposes. So I think that should be called out. Okay, let's now move into the HIMSS news.
2 minutes and then rapid fire Q&A. By the way, Brock had said at 7:12, will you and Roy ever consider doing a live members only pod? Membership largely is just you guys saying thank you. We do have the after hours supposedly FinTech Friday. We've not done that in a while. We might think about Tevis maybe at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, just doing one just as an extra with members, like members only, and then sending a link that if you want to jump on and talk to us.
Look, I would much rather do a members only live stream than a members only pre-recorded content. And I would do that on a consistent basis. I just struggle to find the tools that will allow me to do that because YouTube won't. So unless I want to start a Patreon or unless I want to have like some other, method of how do I filter out who are YouTube members to only be the ones viewing, or there's a feature that I don't know about, then like that's the reason why I haven't done it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we might have to look at Restream or something like that. So yeah, we'll look into that. We'll look into that. No guarantees. Don't expect anything if you're a member on my channel necessarily. I try to be a pretty open book with everybody. So it's just an extra way of showing support, but I don't expect you guys to do that. You don't have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to walk me through this in DMs, Duck, how Sam does it. gives the link somehow, but that's on Patreon. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I need to figure out how I can get only members the link so that only members can view it. I can make a stream for everybody and only members can comment, but again, that's not like a very exclusive thing. So if you guys can figure out a way for me to do it, then I'm happy to do it, and I'll do it regularly. It's not like a lack of desire; it's a lack of methodology.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's take that question off the list because we answered it. Hymns. Okay. I don't know if you saw this, but again, Nurse Jerbear.
Yeah.
With some solid content. I've shouted out Nurse Jerbear a couple of times now.
Yeah. She's been in the stream before too.
Or what?
Well, yeah, he or she, but yeah, she's been in the stream before. I don't think today, but I've seen her once. And yeah.
Are you just assuming gender based on the nurse profession, Roy?
Yes, all nurses are female. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. I mean,
no, it's a Jerbear. Like, does that seem like a male or a female name? I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, it could be like Jerica or something. I don't know. Okay, let's play this video. This is HIMSS Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jessica Shepard. Let me put up the volume because you guys were complaining last time.
But here to talk about health policy and women's health. And then we're recording some amazing stuff for hers and women's health, which October you'll see more of that. So a lot to do while I'm here. And then even doing a feature with Oprah Daily, the publication. So.
Okay, so for those of you who couldn't hear very well because of the background noise, she said that they have a launch in October for women's health, and we all know what that is. It's their whole menopause HRT product lines. They launched testosterone in September, and they're doing a partnership with Oprah or an event with Oprah, and that's going to be interesting, right? Because it's just a random video that she's dropping. There's no press release. There's no like we know this is coming to the end of the year, but now we have a more and more finite timeline of when this can come. And I think testosterone was well received in September. Like, we saw a little bit of a bump in the stock, but we now have to see what actually does that translate to in the financials. Then I think the new product lines that are coming in October are going to be similar. No, Dave, that wasn't Oprah. That was HIMSS Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jessica Shepard, and she really runs the Hers brand in HIMSS and Hers. So all their like female products.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity, for HRT, for testosterone too. Those are not small, but they really do need to accelerate that core revenue outside of GLP-1s. That could be a drag on the stock for a couple of quarters as they ramp up these products. They do a good job of reaching new customers, marketing, distribution. It's kind of a wait and see position for me. I'm happy with the sizing of my position for HIMSS right now. It's not super massive. I'm not bearish. It's a hold for me. Long term, I think HIMSS is very well positioned, but they may have some chop over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, actually, this reminded me. So I don't know why, but this reminded me. One thing that we can do to answer Brock's question is you can do members only live streams, I think, on Twitter. Like, if you have subscribers on X.
Yeah.
Okay, something to think about. I'll keep it in the back of my mind. Sorry. I agree with you 1,000%. I think HIMSS is going to be very well positioned. Of course, we need to see the rate at which these new product lines grow. What I will say is the total addressable market for these product lines is huge. And so we should be seeing something that I am hoping is comparable to GLP-1s in terms of their growth rate, in terms of velocity and scale. And, we'll see, because one other thing that I want with this company is to slowly break that perception that this is just a weight loss company. And as they roll out the hormone replacement therapies, as they roll out new product lines, and of course, we're going to get an updated roadmap in early 2026 going forward, the perception is going to change because the allocation, the percentage of their revenue that comes from that weight loss segment is going to be smaller in comparison as they have more segments.
All right, Q&A. Rapid
Q&A.
fire.
Okay. This question is going to be deep. What's your why? What's your purpose, Roy? Why do you spend so much time on YouTube talking about stocks? What is the end goal?
For me, this honestly is just a hobby. I have my dream job, love doing it, would continue to don't tell where I work this, even if they didn't pay me. I'd probably do a little bit less, to be fair. Ultimately, it's to secure, make things so that my wife, if she chooses to work, she can, she doesn't have to. That's a big why, that we can help out family members, that we can give and live generously. Ultimately, that's it. As far as like spending time on YouTube talking about stocks, I want some sort of outlet as far as a hobby that I enjoy, and I enjoy this very much. If there's like 10 people here and I still got to talk to Tevis, that'd be cool. I like this. So I don't have time. I used to be a big gamer when I was much younger. Don't have time for video games. I rarely watch TV. Occasional movie with my family, and I'll play board games and stuff. And I have some other hobbies, but this largely is my hobby. It's my outlet, and it's very different than what I do for my dream job. So that's basically it.
Yeah, I think that's a good reason. I think mine is similar in many respects, but a little bit different as well. Like, a part of me really finds fulfillment in that journey of trying to build something, and to have the freedom as well to not be tethered to somebody else to make your own money. But then the other part of me doesn't rush it, because I'm blessed to have a very lucrative career, and this is very different from that in terms of the subject matter. So this is, as a result, my decompression time. And I get asked from people like friends and whatnot. They all think I work like a maniac, because I work on this. I work on a startup that I'm doing, and then I'm also working a full-time job in an executive level role. So they're like, you work 7 days a week, and I'm like, well, all the YouTube stuff isn't really work. I'm just talking to my friends about things that I enjoy doing. Like, it doesn't feel like work, and as a result, I put more time into it. I put more care into it. I freaking love so many of you guys that join in every single time. I know you guys all by name. You guys have been watching the channel for years, and I think that's really rewarding from that perspective. Now, do I want YouTube to eventually replace my salary? I think like I'm a super long way away from that. Do I want YouTube to eventually like pay my rent? That's, I think, a more realistic target. But granted, I've never taken sponsorships. I've never done any affiliates. I've never done any promotions, because I'm not really doing it for the money. I just like doing it. And I think it's similar to you, Roy, where it's like, if you lead with your genuine desire to do something, then you can be open to the money, but that's not going to drive the decision making of where you take your channel.
Yeah. Yeah. The other little piece too is a lot of what I do is qualitative. There is a quantitative aspect to it, and eventually maybe you'll all know what I do, but and including it with the PhD, like the methodology is rhetorical analysis, and it's a very qualitative methodology. So it's nice to have something to counterbalance that's quantitative. Though there are qualitative aspects to investing, and certainly what we do here on YouTube.
Yeah, Dave says do it for the honeys, little G. Yeah, Dave, the audience is like 99% male, so I would be doing like freaking TikTok dances or something if women was the end goal of content. But yeah, okay. Let's. What am I drinking? I'm drinking energy drink called B52. It's from Holland, and this is what it looks like. B52. And Roy is drinking a Monster. Love it. Okay. Any views on Oscar Health? We get asked this like every single freaking.
Yeah, just real quickly, I think it's a good company, not necessarily a great company. They have good positioning depending on what happens with the Affordable Care Act over the next few years. I would not want to hold it beyond 3 years.
Are you buying OKLO? Why not?
It's expensive.
Fair enough.
I don't know how to value it. It's expensive. And there's a lot of other stuff out there. If it's trading at like $20 a share, yeah. I mean, like I would still be very like Apple Oven was one of those that I came close to pulling the trigger on too. It's done really well, but I like concentration.
Lulu over 400 this year. Their financials are still fairly strong. Tariffs obviously don't help them. Stock is around 170.
Yeah, so I went into Lululemon on a swing. Swings, at least the way I operate them, I won't say like I think that you should do that because that's financial advice. Is I have targets if it's a swing position, target for gain, or when I start taking gains, a target for maximum losses, and I hit that. Is all options that I was in. It wasn't a huge position. Swings usually aren't for me, and so I obey my own rules that I set for myself. So I had a max loss. Once I hit that, I was out. And of course, there's a lot more downside from that. The one thing that, like, it looks pretty inexpensive, but the one thing that holds me back, the leadership seems a little bit disjointed right now. And like one of those, for instance, things is they did a capital raise a few months ago, which is weird because they've been greedily buying back the stock. And they don't need the money, like they're soluble. They haven't used that for an acquisition. It's just weird. So I think that I'm just going to sit it out. Now, obviously, there is a price at some point where I would buy Lululemon. Like if it goes down to like $30 a share, nothing's different. Like I'd be gobbling it up. It's probably going to do okay, better than the market expects. But yeah, they still sell stretchy pants.
Dopamine said, got to do research, Tevis, go to the gym and check if people are wearing Lulu. Yeah, dude, I don't need to do that. I asked my sister, I was like, hey, like, are people like still into Lulu? And she's like, no. So I said, okay, cool, not touching it. So cheap can always get cheaper, but what do I know? I'm just a freaking degen.
Yeah, I prefer to invest in quality companies. So yeah, go ahead.
Lakeview family, can somebody please answer this? What is Tesla now primarily? An automobile company, an energy company, a humanoid bot company, as a tongue twister, or an AI company?
They are two things. One, which is not too helpful, is a tech conglomerate. There's a lot of companies like Nebius that could be qualified as that. That doesn't make them good, bad, whatever. There's a lot of vertical integration. What they really are is a company that sells time. What I mean is, if you look at all those things, automobile company, it's basically helping you pass your time in the most relaxing way. If full self-driving and when really full self-driving becomes real, regulators allow this, that time that I commute per day, which is, not quite 2 hours, but it's close to it, I get that back all of a sudden. I can sleep, I can watch videos, I can do research on stock market. Now, to be fair, when I hit stop signs and stuff, I do a little bit of that. Anyway, I'm listening to stuff, but it gives me my time back. Energy company, like solar stuff to an extent, but humanoid bots, I mean, like they're there to do whatever you don't want to do. The LLM stuff as well. Like it's a company that's designed to give you your time back.
Yes, I think that's an interesting framing for it. I would just call them, a tech, AI company. I think AI, yeah, I mean, tech conglomerate, AI company encompasses it. Like AI is in everything that they do. It's in the bot, it's in the car. But yes, they definitely do not sell stretchy pants.
Yet.
Brock says, some advice from an old man, like options, life has theta decay. Time is far more valuable than any position in your portfolio. Do what you love and be sure to spend time with your loved ones. Thank you, Brock.
That and related to Tesla, like honestly, that's an incredible commodity that if you're selling time back to consumers, there's a market for that. That was the weirdest thing is I've had people, I understand skepticism on Tesla. I'm a shareholder. I own 2 Teslas. I'm skeptical in them at this price range. I think it's a very speculative position at this valuation. But, you know, I had people like skeptical of whether there'd be a market for their humanoid robots. It's like, are there chores and things that people do in their daily life that they don't want to do? Would people like to have more time back in their life? There's a market for the product. Like, is everyone going to be able to afford these in their homes? I don't think so. That is Elon Musk's vision, but there's going to be a huge market.
Yeah. Are you on the Lulu point a little bit more bullish with the new Amex changes? I saw the credits that they include with Lululemon purchases. Do you think that's going to incentivize a little bit more of a lift there?
I actually hadn't heard that, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, Amex basically like increased the price of their subscription, and people were complaining about it. But among one of the benefits, like, you know how like they partner with other companies and give you benefits, like Lululemon was one of them.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
How long are you guys holding BMNR? I'm holding it for a long time, Bob says.
I'm still filling that out. My answer for right now is 2 years. I have to see how they execute as a business. They're a new business. You know, they did a pivot, kind of like some of the miners have as well. If they execute well, if we see what happens with MicroStrategy, and they continue to trade at an elevated level, especially in bullish conditions over the underlying, the Ethereum, I'll still hold a lot of Ethereum, and I won't have near the position I have now, but I might have some long-term as well. We'll have to see. But yeah, 2 years is a time period I put on the swing play, which allows time, you know, but basically for bottoming out if there's a crypto winter and also recovery.
Yeah, similarly, I think for me, the main time frame that I'm looking at is until the end of this year to take account for some seasonal tailwinds in the crypto, like on the macro level. But I'm also playing it a little bit differently because I have spreads, I have cash secured puts, I have long calls, like leaps, basically, and I have a shares position. I actually posted like my full position on BMNR, and so pretty transparent about that. Now, I think part of that position I'm going to hold for much longer, but part of that position I definitely want to cut and reallocate that capital, you know, somewhere else that I feel is better, especially because like a good chunk of that position is in the wheeling portfolio, and if I'm not wheeling, you know, in that portfolio, then what the heck is the point of having it? So I'm just going to allocate accordingly. It's not like a buy and hold and never touch it again, like SoFi might be. It's more like, hey, you're going to buy it and sell a portion after a while, especially if it's leveraged, and then keep a portion for longer. Okay. When do you think we'll actually get to robotaxis and Optimus robots?
Robotaxis, like widespread, we're probably talking about 2027. A lot of that's regulatory stuff. There is some work for full self-driving to do. In locales, you know, I think it's going to be more widespread next year, but we're a ways off from it. Optimus robots, if you're referring to at the factory level, the company level, you know, we might see some, I wouldn't say next year, but I think that's a 2027, 2028 thing. Consumers, like early consumers, the mega wealthy and everything, maybe 2030, 2031. Average everyday Americans. So Tevis would fall in the former category as a billionaire, but me, you know, maybe 2033, 2034.
Yeah, I think 2030s is probably a safe bet. Early 2030s. Of course, like if you're believing the compensation package, then you should have your answer right there, because I think that goes out 10 years or 8 years. Can't remember now. Does it go out to 2032? But I'm sure somebody in the comments will let us know. But I think by 2032, it's going to be more widespread to normal households. I think 2027, you're going to see it in like factories and selling it B2B, and then it's going to get slow rollout first in the US and then slowly internationally. Do you think October will pull back? Money supplies shows that it'll slow down.
kind of talked about that earlier. I'm about like 30% chance money supply is one of those things that's worth paying attention to. But the Fed is cutting, so.
Yeah. I think we could see, like, if we do see a pullback, I think it's going to be a more minor pullback unless there's like some massive geopolitical thing. What do you guys use each LLM for? What purposes? It's an interesting
That's
one.
just to you, brother. I'm not answering.
You're not answering that.
Nope.
I mostly use it for like giving it transcripts of things and asking it to give me the action items from the transcript, like for meetings and such, or make one pagers. I love one pagers. I have everybody on my team, like, they know that this is how I work, because it cuts down on meetings significantly. And if they want to do a project, I'm like, cool, you can do whatever you want, but I want a one pager of like your proposal. And in that one pager, you have to basically explain what the purpose is, what the goal is, what the risks are, what the assumptions are, what the timeline is, so on and so forth, so that everybody can know what the initiative is, what the project is, without having like dozen meetings and wasting everybody's time. And so I'm having my entire team use it for that purpose. So condensing large pieces of data into more succinct pieces of data. I think Notebook LM is really helpful for that as well. I use VO3 to just make like meme videos from time to time for like the group chat. Like I made the Roy Pope video with Grok Imagine. In my personal life, I use Grok mainly. I think Grok is really, really good to scour and find old tweets. So I'm like, hey, have I tweeted about, I don't know, BMNR? Like, find all the tweets for BMNR, rank them by engagement, and give me the links. And I can just do that in a second. Then I don't have to like scroll through different things. So I use that quite a bit. Yeah.
I will like quickly answer. So like on the dissertation side, I'm terrible at titles. So I'll oftentimes have a section where I need a title. I'll say, here's my section, give me 10 titles, boom, done. For my conclusion of an argument or an arc, I'll feed it. Thankfully, you can do lots of pages now. This is what I've written. Here's my conclusion. Let me know what I've kind of dropped the ball on and I should address in my conclusion. Likewise with introductions, it's really good at being an aggregator of information. It's excellent at any ancient historical stuff that's public domain knowledge. And so oftentimes I'll be researching something like, am I overlooking anything here? For investment side, oftentimes it'll accelerate like the learning curve. Like Air Test Systems is one of those that's just doing ridiculously well for me. But when I was first getting into that company and starting a small invest and investigate position, like it's out of my domain. I knew some of it, but like burn-in test systems, wafer level, what is gallium nitride, who all is using it, who are the competitors. Like there's a lot of stuff you can't just look at a balance sheet for or the investor relations page. And it was so helpful. And then I would oftentimes, not just necessarily with investments, I'll do a back and forth where I'm like, okay, I don't want you to like butter me up. I want it to be like plain. If I'm wrong, call me out, push back on me, argue hard against me zealously the other position, but fairly based on the data. And then I'll pitch like Air Test Systems or something like that. Or something that I'm working on at work, I'll be pitching this and I'll ask it to find holes, poke holes, do logical stuff. It does a great job of synthesizing a lot of dense information and breaking it down. But probably mostly what I do is use it as kind of an advanced Google. That's why maybe it surprised me, those OpenAI results, where I'll remember like the, I can't remember the full name of it, but the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis of languages, which I know is like bunk, but I'm like, I don't remember exactly like all the details. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just remember the Whorf thing. I'm like, okay, so there's some sort of Whorf language hypothesis thing. And I remember like there's been a lot of pushback on it, but remind me like what's the full name and tell me some about it. And so I'll interact on that, just like, oh, okay, that's right. That's what this is for. Historical anecdotes, those sort of things too. Some of it's just my own personal curiosity and some of it's like stuff that I actually use. So
Roy, be real. Everybody in the chat knows you're a Russian spy. You're a sleeper cell.
So that's not. I don't think that's a Russian theory. Sapir Whorf.
No,
I mean, it's two names, two researchers, but yeah.
I just you spoke Russian in the last podcast, and people. I think like I don't see a lot of Texans that can speak. I mean, it sounded pretty fluent to me, but what do I know?
Yeah. No, I have an accent that can pass as what I've been told. So in Vegas, ended up having a dinner with a former Ukrainian, now an American citizen, and former Russian, now U.S. citizen as well. Is my sleeper cell agents, No, I'm just kidding. But I spoke just, yeah, I did. Not through the dinner, but just polite conversation. And very basic because I've forgotten so much. Like when you don't use it for 20 something years, it's just hard. But the lady said
something years, you absolutely like every piece of evidence points to the fact that you're a sleeper cell, bro.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I may have also met some Russians from the former USSR that came over to Alaska shortly after the fall of. But anyway, no, she said that I sounded like the accent was really good. And I sounded like somebody that was Russian that had lived in America a long time. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Say something in Russian.
Большое спасибо, товарищ. Я изучал русский язык за 4 года на Аляске. И я не КГБ, forget agent. Whatever agent is. I'm not a KGB agent.
I heard the KGB there. KGB. Da. Spasiba. Привет.
Советский Союз. Yeah.
Where the fuck did I land? Wrong podcast.
Yeah. Well, I do yeah. Anyway, it's not even like my second language that I know best, but I'm not very, very far away from fluent. But I can converse on a few things. So.
Okay, so let's continue with the questions. Roy, are you trying to get Alex Chris for another interview?
Let me answer it this way. At some point, but not soon, maybe a couple quarters, I would like to have him for another interview. I think it makes more sense maybe after Q4 numbers come out in January. And there may be 2, possibly 3 interviews, not all with PayPal people, but with some PayPal people that you may recognize at some point. So nothing's guaranteed. Sometimes dates and times fall apart and strategies change, but
Yes. Okay. Curious to hear Tevis's thoughts on Hood. Would he buy if it drops close to 100? If it drops under 100, I would definitely buy. I mean, look, I've said before, like I think I feel underinvested in Robinhood, and I don't feel like I have enough. So, yeah, not against buying more. Roy looks like Alex Chris's brother. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex Chris actually knows that joke. When I interviewed him, he brought that up immediately, and I was like, this is hilarious.
Did we talk about PayPal yet? I mean, I think we are right now. So
yeah, I mean, like the main thing with PayPal is company's been executing, I think, well and above expectations. The market wants top line growth. It doesn't care about value. It doesn't care about valuation. It doesn't care about earnings. PayPal doesn't have top line growth right now. They'll have more in Q3. I mean, they have some, but it's single digits. They'll have more in Q3. Q4 should nicely accelerate by that point. Guidance should be really good. Free cash flow is going to be ridiculous over the next 2 quarters. It can be a bit lumpy. They announced, that Google partnership, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I wonder if this is going to actually change the narrative on the stock. No, it didn't. I think the only thing that does is basically revenue growth on the top side. And PayPal, frankly, like one of those criticisms, and I have been critical of the company in a few ways. They've done a lot of things well. but they release all these different products and then they don't, share any guidance, any internal expectations, anything other than like hints, like Dr. Mark Grather with advertising, which I think is not quite a layup, but it's really close to that for PayPal. It's easy money, high margin product. You have the guy that literally built from scratch the Uber advertising that ramped immensely and rapidly. He did this similar thing for Amazon as well. He's one of the best in the business. And like, how can PayPal not succeed for that? Of course, they did launch offsite ads over in Germany and the UK as well, which is significant. But those sort of things take a few months. He did allude to, when he's asked about goals, he's like, we haven't released these, so I can't tell you, but you've seen what I've done at Uber, and you can think similarly. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. Has a market price in any of that? No, it hasn't. So what I think needs to happen is top line reacceleration. And then for some, not all, because not all are going to work, not all are going to be huge drivers, but for some of these new projects that are ramping and some have ramped, beyond minimum monetization, which has gone very, very well, and the Braintree margin shift too. But like Fastlane or advertising or any number of things, Pay USD, they need to see real revenue. Payment by Crypto, PayPal World. I mean, I could keep naming things. So I'm guessing, and I'm hoping as well in quarter four, very confident in what we see in the numbers. That's going to surprise the market a lot. Free cash flow will too. What's a question mark in my mind is what they do for guidance. Now they will be conservative no matter what they throw out there. But if they just say, hey, we're still working on these things and we're not factoring any of this into guidance, I think the market will leave them in the dumpster where they are. And when they start seeing the revenue, then they'll go for it. However, if they do see, and I think that they will, top line reacceleration, massive free cash flow, margins continue to head in the right direction, and then they guide what I think that they may guide for this next year and include even conservatively, like this is what we're looking at for ads, or not even saying that, but just like, here's our guidance. It's way higher than people expect. And then analysts start asking questions like, well, advertising is doing really well. Buy now, pay later. We just launched this in is it Spain or Italy, Portugal, one of those. Omni-channel in Germany. And so they start talking about all these things that they've been building are launching well, are driving actual value to shareholders. That's when the market, I think the narrative changes. I don't think before. That could be as early as quarter three. I think quarter four is more likely just because you have the full year guidance where they're kind of forced to guide. So I hope that they will guide more aggressively. I hope to ask very directly. Yeah. No, I mean, it's way undervalued. I think no one argues against that. But the market's mood is, if a stock has been running like Palantir, doesn't matter what the value is, it's going to keep running. Just buy more of it. And I'm a Palantir shareholder. Versus PayPal, it's like, well, it's stuck. It's not going to move. And so something like short term, and to change the direction of a stock, the narrative has to shift. We saw that with SoFi. They're helped by macro, but they also did some things internally and externally which helped. We saw that a while ago. It's been a while with Robinhood. We saw that with Palantir. So PayPal has to deliver. The numbers are good, but the narrative has to improve. The way you do that is by executing on new projects and guiding for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree that that's the case, that winners just keep on winning and losers don't get a second look. I don't necessarily love that that's the case. But it's sort of defeats the efficient market hypothesis. The fact that a stock can do like a 20x in a year like OKLO can, and I'm sure it's going to, if we take a snapshot for the next 12 months, there's also a good argument to be made that OKLO is going to be higher than PayPal is going to be for the next 12 months, just on the back of that rolling snowball down a hill momentum. So anyways, it works until it doesn't. Let's put it that way. And on that note, is there going to be a Christmas rally?
Yes.
I think so too. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in 2026, but if we get a healthy pullback in October, then I think it does set us up for a Christmas rally. Why did I say that I wouldn't have BMNR in my retired mother's portfolio? I think the risk profile for BMNR, treasury companies don't really produce anything. So treasury companies are a proxy to the assets that they hold in their treasury, in this case, Ethereum. So if I'm bullish on the underlying Ethereum, then I'm going to buy BMNR, or I can just buy Ethereum, which I have bought Ethereum for her. She owns Ethereum tokens, which I bought for her like back in 2020. But I'm not going to buy BMNR for her because that's like a leverage bet on Ethereum, and she doesn't understand what the fuck Ethereum is. So, like it's a little bit difficult because if she's at that age where she's going to be going into retirement and looking to have that money to spend in the next several years, I'm not going to be YOLOing it on stuff that is not super safe. So I want to stick with stuff that produces something that has repeatable cash flows, that is a compounder. Like a huge chunk of her portfolio is in SoFi that I bought for her at like $9. And so that's doing very well for her, but it's predictable in that sense. Ethereum was flat for like 4 years. It just was, dude. It was. I don't think you can debate it. Like, yeah, sure, institutions are going to use it, and it's like the darling of, like BMNR is doing more volume than freaking MicroStrategy is. Where were all these people, myself included, by the way? I'm not absolving myself included. Where were all these people 12 months ago when Ethereum was like $2,000 and nobody wanted it at $2,000? So it's like, why is that the case? Well, it's the case because it's only as good as like the market collectively sees it. Whereas with real companies, you could argue the same thing with SoFi. Like it was hated by the market for a long time, but I know that sooner or later that's going to come around because it produces something and the business is growing as a result. So yes, I have Ethereum for her in her retirement account. I don't have BMNR and I won't buy BMNR for her because first of all, I don't want to do leverage bets because she's at that age where I don't want to take risks. And second of all, I would rather put that in something way safer.
Yeah. If you guys are like retired age, not earning income, and you're set for life with what you have right now, it makes more sense for most people to be a little defensive there. Why would you jeopardize set for life when you're like, okay, but I can own my own private island, but you could also go bankrupt and then have to work at Walmart as a greeter. Like, it's okay to be more conservative, especially when it makes sense to do so.
When will BMNR be profitable, or all it does is accumulate Ethereum? Yeah, basically all it does is accumulate Ethereum, but when they reach that 5% target, then they can stake that Ethereum and make a percentage off of that.
Yeah, and they haven't staked yet. They're assessing strategies, much like ETHZ did, to see what's out there that can give them a higher yield. Hopefully they do that relatively soon. I wouldn't want them to consider things for like 5 months and lose this time. But ultimately, like at the point when, and I don't know if that's like when they hit 5% or what they'll focus on doing. They may say, okay, we've got 5%. Let's accumulate a bit more. There's a little bit of danger as over accumulation, just because you do want a lot of decentralization in the chain. It's healthy for Ethereum. But yeah, at the point that they just stop buying, they say, hey, we're good. You have a yield there and you can look at the yield. That's when they're profitable because they really don't have expenses, not meaningful ones.
Yeah. Question to Roy here. Do you think focusing 100% on profitable growth and sidelining growth was a mistake for PayPal? Market seems to think so.
I think even if they didn't do this strategy, they would still be in the dumpster. The bigger issue was when Alex Chris came in. I didn't perceive this, honestly, how big a mess PayPal was. I knew some of the mess, like things like really silly things. Like they just announced, they've alluded to this before, but they announced, oh, pretty soon you can send money between Venmo and PayPal. Good. It's, by the way, if you're not in the know, Venmo is owned by PayPal. Why couldn't they do this 8 years ago? It's because it was horribly mismanaged under Dan Schulman. Not initially, but like his last 4 years, 5 years were just atrocious, terrible. One of the worst CEOs on the planet as far as doing so little with so much opportunity. Like if PayPal had been operating under Alex Chris, it would be trading up there, I think, with Visa and MasterCard right now. I really do think that. But Schulman did so little with so much and like caused brand damage and just had a chaotic strategy and just, it was so bad. their tech stack was a mess, which I didn't appreciate at the time fully. I knew some of it needed to be improved, but boy, they're shifting over to PayPal One. That's a back end thing, but it's under a similar guise. Actually did it for Walmart and right sized that. They overhired. I mean, they had like 30,000 employees. Now they're like at 24, I think. So, that was one of those issues too. They were trying, I don't know, the whole thing was chaotic. There was no clear cut strategy. Everyone was like working on their own individual teams. They would do an acquisition and just say, okay, like Honey, they'd way overpaid for Honey. It's useful in their ecosystem. It made sense, to actually buy, and they're actually using it now, thankfully. But they're like, okay, let's buy Honey and then do very little with it. We'll just let it run on its own. They can have their own HR team. They can have their own, not quite CEO, but essentially, and we'll never communicate with them and they'll never communicate with us. It's so stupid. Stupid. So that needed to be fixed. And that was a huge issue that, is underneath the surface. When Alex Chris got in there within the first month, I think he knew it. The way he communicated to shareholders seems like he knew it. And then, that Q4 earnings, which is his first full quarter, that's when he's like, transition year, guys. There's a lot of good things, but there's a lot of work to do. And we got to put points to the board. This was after, or actually just a little bit after the shock the world comment. So I think the shock was how messed up PayPal was. I still think that there's a shock to the upside too. But yeah, top line revenue growth is the mood that the market's in. At the time when Alex Chris was doing these things, that wasn't where the market was. It always likes top line growth, but there is a time when the market really prioritizes driving free cash flow, driving shareholder returns, whether that's buybacks, dividends, and what have you. It's not where the market's at right now. So this is Alex's goal is not to pump the stock in a year for shareholders. It's to turn around the company, which I think we're 75% of the way through that turn, maybe 85% of the way through, and then accelerate into the future in a way that doesn't see PayPal becoming more and more obsolete as time goes by, but instead is a clear leader in the field.
Yeah, when the market is euphoric like it is right now, top line growth is going to get an outsized share of interest. When the market is in the pits, like recession or massive pullback like 2022, then profitability is really what matters. And so that's a general rule of thumb that you should keep in mind, because you wouldn't have OKLOs doing 20x in 2022. Because it's uncertain times, and so you need profitability because it secures that runway for the company to keep executing and growing.
Yeah, in 2022, that's if we had 2022 next year again, that'd be like a $2 stock.
I mean, that could be a play.
It would be, yeah. Yeah, I'd buy that. I'd buy Coinbase at $80. Just I don't know. I don't know that.
Do you ever look at promising small caps like BFLY?
Yeah, I've never heard of that one. I do look at small caps. I'm not averse. A lot of times they're small for a reason. The one that I'm in that's a micro cap, actually, not just small cap, is Air Test Systems. I like that one.
That one, yeah, did very well for you.
100%.
Well, yeah, 100% is not just a confirmation. It's actually the gains that he has right now from it. So what's the next SoFi, Dave? Just buy SoFi, dude.
SoFi is the next SoFi.
Talking triple in 2 years. Why can't SoFi do a triple? Well, maybe not. Depends.
Depending on macro, yeah. But I think it'll do well over 2 years. The thing is, if you're young enough and you invest well enough, you don't need 10x returns every other year to do well. Yeah. If you end up, just let's say, I don't think this isn't really conservative, but let's just say SoFi doubles from here. It's trading at $60 a share in 2 years. I don't think anybody should be upset about that, sad about that. If you can get a double in 2 years on anything, man, that is phenomenal. If you get even more conservative, let's say that they don't get the 45s and it's a sad thing. And all of a sudden, I know, but all of a sudden SoFi is up 50% over 2 years. So many SoFi shareholders will be very disappointed and this is terrible, this is bad. Dude, 50% gains over 2 years is amazing. And if you're young enough, if you have even not that much of a chunk of money, if you can fairly consistently do that, you are mega wealthy in retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be in a rush to be rich. we held SoFi for like 3 years before it started blowing up, and now you guys are asking for like the next SoFi. Like, it's if you're willing to hold something for 3 years before it does a triple, then I can tell you things that I think are going to do a triple in 3 years. But I don't think a lot of people have the gumption or the patience to hold it for 3 years, as we did with SoFi. Why doesn't PayPal buy dLocal?
Interestingly enough, Alex Chris did allude to this in his next fireside chat, not dLocal, but he said, that they're open to the idea of acquisitions down the road. They did a lot of them into it as part of their model, but you can't do an acquisition when your house is in disorder any more than you would want to invite company that you actually care about when they're screaming and fighting and just a mess, physical mess on the floor, and your front doorbell doesn't work and all these things. You got to fix that first and clean up your house. So there's a time for this. Maybe like a year from now is, I would say, the earliest that, unless it's a very small acquisition that just makes a lot of sense. dLocal wouldn't be. Plus, dLocal is a payment service provider. There's nothing that they're doing that Braintree can't conceivably do. I think Alex Chris is trying to pivot PayPal from a payments company to a commercial company, and dLocal doesn't help with that. It's a good company, but it's just not the direction they need to go.
Cool. How much cash did BMNR raise? I think 345 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
And more with the warrants. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just check the press release, man. And that is my cue, because we just hit the 2 hours and 30-minute mark, and the clock just struck 2 a.m. for me. So maybe we should wrap here, Roy?
Yeah, I would say so. You guys are an amazing audience. Thank you for being with us. I know some of you popped in and out. Whatever you take away from this, I've got chapters in the comments. So if you missed something, just look back. I'll send those over to Tevis too, so he can put them up on his too. But it's always a pleasure, always a joy. Happy investing, guys.
Bye.